Statement of acknowledgement. We would like to acknowledge this land that we meet on today is the traditional lands for the Kaurna people, and that we respect their spiritual relationship with their country. We also acknowledge the Kaurna people as the custodians of the Greater Adelaide region, and that their cultural and heritage beliefs are still as important to the living Kaurna people today. So, attendance record. We've got a full house. Roll call. We've got no apologies. Motions to grant leave of absence. No. Leave of absence. There's none here. Non-attendance. So, do you want to move the deputations forward, Nathan?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. I'm assuming we might have received a couple of deputations after. So did you want to move the deputations above public open forum? Yeah, look, I'm happy to oblige.
Yeah. Do you want to move that?
Yeah, I'm happy to. Yeah.
Have we got a seconder? Jim Vallelonga. We move the deputations forward above public open forum. Yeah. So, do you want to speak to that?
To be honest, I'm probably doing this a little bit on the fly, but just assuming that a few deputations came in after the fact, and I think it'd be respectful just to be able to prioritise.
We move that.
So happy to oblige in the nature to help the gallery.
So, all those in favour? Carried unanimously. Deputations. David Patton, President, Gawler Rangers Baseball Carbethan Reserve Master Plan and the upcoming budget. Thank you.
Chris, for allowing me to come tonight, to Mayor Karen Redmond again, to Deputy Mayor Nathan and to all the elected members. Just a quick about myself and why I'm here tonight. I think I come with a different view of all this. Up front, I'm currently the Deputy Mayor of Adelaide Plains Council, so I understand the process of master plans, I understand the process of dealing with consultants, I understand the process of them paying for it all, and then keeping the residents happy at the same time. So I think I come from a different direction as also now club president of the Gawler Rangers Baseball Club, because I'm able to put together what the club's desires and needs are, along with the understanding on how we get there from your side of the table. I was appointed to president 12 months ago now. I've come from 45 years of being in the game. Most of that time in Victoria, so I've been here for 8 years now, so I understand the game and its needs, and it's growing. We are in the growth corridor in South Australia. We all are very well aware of that, and that will be challenging you with roads and infrastructure and everything else, but it's also in regards to what do we do with the kids. And sport's it. Sport's the answer. Gawler Rangers Baseball Club in particular, which I'm representing, I'll make that quite clear. I'm not here representing either of the Gawler Softball Associations or the Gawler Eagles Soccer or the KSA in itself. I'm here purely on behalf of the baseball club. Starting in 2007, we went to Div 1 last year and already a raging success in Div 1. 5 senior teams, including women's, juniors in all age groups, and this year we hit 30 for our T-ball program, which is kids from about the age of 4 up to about 8. So we're seeing huge growth, going from survival to now becoming a premier club in baseball, and everyone's now looking to us. What has definitely helped that is now that we have possibly the start of what will be the best facilities in the state. We have a lot that no one else can offer, the lights being the main part of that we can play night games. There is only one other diamond in South Australia that can do that, and that's West Beach, which is not a club venue, that's the state venue. So that allows us to do a lot more than what other clubs can do and beyond. So what I'm hoping tonight to help with is an understanding of what the master plan means to not just the community but to us as a baseball club, and what we can do with it. 2 diamonds is about all I'm asking for, and that'll do us for probably the next 10 years. We've got one of them, so all I'm asking is for a second one. That allows me to run tournaments. There are currently approximately 16 tournaments run around Australia. Any of these tournaments will have 14 teams at them, with a team budget of $90,000 per team. So we're talking about a tournament with a $1.26 million economic benefit to the local area. Now, of course, not all of that will go to the local area because some of that's flights to get here, but the rest is accommodation. They've got to feed here, they've got to hire cars here, minibuses, use the supermarkets, etc. That's players only. If you then take into the fact that that's 14 teams of 25 kids and most of them will bring at least mum and dad, that's another approximately $390,000 based on $1,000 a head. I can tell you I go to these tournaments and as a parent I can spend probably $3,000 or $4,000, not $1,000. So that's an economic benefit of getting close to $1.6 million. And they are yelling to get this into South Australia, and I could get this up to probably half a dozen times a year on top of what we're doing. So that's the economic benefit to what we see in future development. But right now, there's a need because soccer is taking over. It's becoming an 11-month of the year sport. So that mix of having a summer sport and a winter sport on the same premises and utilising the same space is causing an issue. So that second diamond allows us to get off the cricket pitch, which then allows soccer to take over the cricket pitch full time. And as far as I can see, all 3 clubs will be happy for probably the next 5 years. So it's quite simple. So that's what I'm asking for. And I hope beyond tonight we can work together because, as I said, I understand the difficulties. I'm currently dealing with a master plan that's got a value of about $35 million. So I understand, but this is just, I think, a little chunk of that we need that will help for quite a long time into the future. So that's probably it for me, unless there's any questions.
Any questions for David Patton? Any questions? Deputy Mayor, you go first. You go first.
Okay, this is a question for staff.
That's right, yeah.
An extra diamond, how will that affect, say, the BMX that are going to potentially relocate there and the cricket clubs? It sounds like the cricket club is going to be extinct. So how does this now fit with the other users of that space?
So through the chair, the existing master plan actually has an additional baseball diamond and it doesn't affect the proposal around the BMX. That is only a concept, it's not part of the master plan yet. That is part of our sport and community rec facility planning that we're doing currently. Yeah. But the additional baseball diamond is well and truly part of the future for the site. And if BMX were to move there, they're still accommodated there. Regarding cricket, my understanding is that the cricket haven't played there for a number of years. However, there is an option around the master plan still for the new cricket oval to be developed on site as well without impacting either baseball or the BMX proposal. So there is catering for all of those sports in that.
Deputy Mayor.
Firstly, thank you for coming, and thank you for everything that you do in the community. Obviously, some of those grassroots sporting programs are something that I hold very close to my heart, so yeah, thank you for that. Just in your experience, so in Victoria, and bringing that experience into South Australia is a great thing as well. What sort of costings have you seen the development cost, and then is there an opportunity of staging as well to say, the daytime only sort of situation with provision of lights to come later? Is that something that gets it across the line? Like, how does all that work?
There you go.
Thanks for the question. Definitely. And that's where I come from, my understanding of the pressures of budgets. The master plans are generally done by consultants who want a trophy up on the mantelpiece for having designed some whiz-bang, fantastic, wonderful plan with very little thought put into actually dealing with the individual users of the project. So a second diamond would be well below the current standard of the diamond that has just been completed. That was completed November-ish last year. I think we moved on to it. So it would be well below that standard. There would be no need for lights. So there's, under my understanding, about $800,000 taken off just the cost of the ground itself. No need. It'd be basically just a simple version of what's currently already there.
Councillor Hughes.
Yeah, do you have pardon the pun, a ballpark sort of figure of what this second diamond or... Yeah, I mean, you guys did work in really closely with the council staff and actually did keep the costs down in the last one, which was great, but you sort of have been really helpful in that regard, I believe.
Staff member would have to answer the question to what the cost of the current diamond was. I can obviously say yes, we can take possibly close to $750,000 off it because of removing the lights, which I believe are in the master plan for the second diamond. There would be no need for that. So it's basically the fencing and turf and irrigation. So I don't know what your costing was for the current one. I could give you my ballpark figures, but they're not figures that council will ever get, and you'll understand that. I can obviously do it myself through our own sponsors and members, but that's not how it works. So I couldn't tell you what. I would be confident that we're talking well under six figures, considering all it is fencing and turf.
Yeah.
I would think, but I don't know. But I think sorry if I may, the movement of us off the cricket pitch, because we use that a lot at the moment, allows soccer their growth and allows us our growth. Softball are fine where they are. They don't need any extra space. So in my opinion, this is fixing a problem that's possibly 10 years. It'll solve a problem for that long. Yep.
Thanks, Mayor. I'm just looking at the long-term financial plan because that's what we have to work on constantly. And in fact, the LGAF has actually said we have to be careful. Now, I'm looking at this and it's slated for the Calbeathan Reserve redevelopment 3940. And if I look at, and if you all go to the plan, it's number 15 in all the other investments we need to make. So I'm just a bit cautious about, we've got all these other interest groups that want their facilities as well. So I'm just careful that we're not going to send a message that something is going to be bumped above another worthy development, which is in our long-term financial plan. And I think that was there as $4 million for the redevelopment out there. And that was in 3940.
Thank you for those comments,
Yep.
Paul.
Thank you.
Any other questions? No? You may sit down.
Running, but
Yeah.
we're actually in the middle of a Division 1 game at the moment. So
Yeah.
please excuse me leaving the meeting now. I've got to get to that. So
That's
thank
great.
you.
That's great. Thank you. So Glyn Donaldson, Telecommunication Tower, Hemmerford Grove Reserve. There you go.
Good evening, Mayor, elected members, council staff, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Glyn Donaldson and I'm here to speak about the proposed communications facility at the Hemmerford Grove Reserve. I've made 3 previous representations, one at the Council Assessment Panel, another at a public forum and a further representation on the 28th of May last year as a regular council meeting. A number of other residents have also made similar representations. Along the journey, a wide range of issues and concerns have been raised through these representations about the proposed communications facility, including written submissions on the development application. The major concerns and issues are the choice of location for the proposed communications facility. Only 2 sites were ever considered, one of them being near the Gawler East School and instantly discounted due to the population near there. So what does this mean that the Hemmerford Grove Reserve is acceptable when, if built, it would be surrounded by the largest residential population of any communications facility within the Gawler precinct? Furthermore, a technical analysis was presented to the Council Assessment Panel that showed the Hemmerford Grove Reserve was a far inferior site from an engineering perspective to that of expanding the use of an existing Calbeeba telecommunications facility. This analysis additionally demonstrated a departure from the planning guidelines of non-proliferation of infrastructure. Other major concerns and issues included visual impact of the structure, noise emitted from the site, inappropriate use of community land, and inconsistencies in the developer's development application documentation. With the exception of a potential change in the colour of the infrastructure and the surrounding fence construction, the applicant has made little attempt to address any of the aforementioned concerns and issues, including graphics from their own development application documentation showing there is no improvement in mobile coverage after the telecommunications facility is commissioned. They have effectively thumbed their nose at community concerns. The Hemmerford Grove residents are thankful for the elected members and council for the effort to listen and to read the concerns and issues that have been raised. We sincerely appreciate the consultation, the public consultation that has occurred, and are happy the council development process has followed and led us to the position we are at tonight. The Executive Manager of Infrastructure and Operations has presented a paper that will be voted on tonight, rejecting the request for landowner consent of the Hemmerford Grove Reserve as a location for this telecommunication facility. This is in line with the consistent lack of community support for the proposed telecommunications facility, and we collectively implore the elected members to support this recommendation. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Glenn. Ray Koshel.
Thank you, Your Worship, the Mayor, councillors, elected members. Again, I'll speak to the Hemmerford Grove telecommunications facility. I'd like to briefly mention 4 topics in this deputation: the application, the process, the recommendation and the future. Firstly, the application. When I first read the Indira application, I found at least 20 points that I thought were misleading at best or required more detailed explanation. The overall impression to me was simply drown them in details and the stuff we need will slide under the radar. It was to me a basic cookie cutter document, one that I found of around 600 presented to councils around Australia to achieve the goal, the corporate goal at that time. Since then, I have found many examples where items in the application have proven to be false, and a revised application did little to address my concerns and, in fact, raised more. Secondly, the process. Certainly, the application caused a sense of heavy concern in the surrounding community. Others could also see that the shortcomings in the application, and this galvanised us into a cohesive group to contest the application. Almost in desperation, we turned to a potential legal solution, promoting the health aspect of such towers. This aspect has little support these days, and other concerns have taken precedence. I was disappointed at the DAP planning meeting by the number of unanswered questions by the Indira representative at the time, by the dismissal of obvious flaws in the application, and by the almost cavalier attitude of some of the members present who thought of us as mere NIMBYs and were more concerned about the colour of the paint. It is significant that at that meeting the chairman was frustrated enough to vote against the application. Hats off to Council, their staff in particular, for facilitating a public meeting where we were able to present our concerns and voice our objections to the application. Very well organised, and we were treated with respect and heard without bias. I personally met with the Executive Manager of Infrastructure and Operations at a later date and was impressed by her professionalism, engagement and willingness to achieve a positive result. Thank you, Wendy. Third item, the recommendation. The recommendation before you to deny landowner consent says to me two things. One, that Council have seen through the flaws in and the arrogance of the application, to such an extent even that a firm decision can be taken now and not wait for community land management plans to be completed. You don't need them to deny this application. And secondly, that Council see this as an opportunity to capitalise on the momentum gained in community engagement. I feel this is probably the most important thing Council can gain out of all of this: increased goodwill within the community. And finally, the future. Hemmerford Grove Reserve actually services both Coastal Estate and Hamilton Park areas. It was once a thriving community centre until water was turned off on the Oval. Not restoring the water has caused the entire Oval surface specifically and surrounding area generally to deteriorate to the point of being useless. Council must accept much of the responsibility for this, notwithstanding other considerations. I commend the new breed of elected members for their willingness to solicit community input for the future, although sadly some of the Facebook comments make you wonder about the sender's maturity. The positive suggestions, however, provide an excellent groundwork to move forward. There is a gradual changing of the guard in our area as the next generation take up residence. They need the facilities that we had at their age. Among other things to come out of this is the willingness of the local community to assist in restoring the area to greater usefulness, even to the point of potentially volunteering for some of the work involved. All of this can only happen, however, if the recommendation before you is accepted and the application refused. I commend that decision to you.
Thank you. Thank you, Crackers. Okay. Tanya Ramsey, Telecommunications Tower, Hemmerford Grove Reserve.
Good evening, Mayor. Oh, a bit shorter than everyone else.
Yeah.
Good evening, Mayor, elected members, council staff, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Tanya Ramsey. I have been the face of this fight, and I'm here to speak on behalf of everybody else in the Gawler East community and the community of Gawler, and show our support for the proposed decision report that we presented here tonight regarding the Hemmerford Grove Telecommunications Tower proposal land lease. To start, I'd like to take this opportunity to thank the Gawler Council for their willingness over the last 12 months to listen intently, to support our community, and more so for their courage to be a leader in the council community by proposing this denial in the land lease. It's not a decision other councils would potentially be prepared to make. It, however, on all the presented information and consultation, the decision is right and a necessary one. Our community commends you for that. This fight hasn't been a NIMBY fight or even a debate about pros and cons of telecommunications services. It's been a stand against what is right and wrong, what is acceptable and unacceptable, what is just and unjust. And thankfully the council seems to have seen through the corporate smoke and mirrors by submitting tonight's proposal. We feel that this process was flawed and somewhat underhanded from the outset. It felt like a case of bullying and intimidation by a corporate entity. We've endured moments of deflation and moments of strength, but now, as we've reached this point, it is a moment of pride. We are proud to stand here side by side with the council, showing big business what passion and people can do. We stood up for what we believed and are content that the council saw exactly what we saw in relation to the validity of this application. Moving forward, the Gawler East community supports the Council's intent to review the Community Land Management Plan over the coming months. We aspire to and look forward to seeing what the Hemmerford Grove Reserve's long future looks like and how we can all contribute to its improvement. The reserve was once a green space. It has seen better days, yes. Its demise was a sign of the times, but we now feel hopeful that the Council sees how important it is to preserve the community spaces or convert these spaces into usable space for the community to enjoy. We look forward to being part of the future project and the long-term prospects. I'd like to touch on the future of telecommunications infrastructure. We all know the importance of the industry. We all use that infrastructure, but we need to hold these companies accountable for their attempts to misconstrue their legislation and entitlements in a bid to get what they want. I would like to encourage the Gawler Council to continue with their stand on this matter to protect what is in these communities. One of our biggest frustrations in relation to this application was the inadequacies of the applications in relation to the current new development of Springwood. New developments must have appropriate infrastructure in their planning stages prior to approval to allow for growth. New towers must clearly meet location and zoning requirements, and planning bodies must ensure precision in their process. Close enough just isn't good enough. Just because is not a justification. So tonight, when the officer's recommendations regarding the facility at Hemmerford Grove Reserve is proposed, we once again thank you all for your movement vote to deny the lease of the council land. On closing tonight, we need to remember, anything is possible when you have the right people that support you. The greatest thing for me personally to come from the last 12 to 18 months has been community. The growth of our local networks, the growth of our friendships, the growth of our passion for our spaces, and the strength and relationships that have been built between our community and the council. It gives me personally great hope and confidence that the Gawler Council is heading in the right direction and we truly will be the greatest place to live. Thank you.
Thank you, Tanya. John Rose.
Good evening, Mayor, councillors, council members, council staff and audience. My name is John Rose, I live in Gawler East and I'm here to talk about the proposed tower at Hemmerford Grove. I'd like to say thank you to the Gawler Council and councillors for taking the concerns of residents of Gawler East seriously and for the comprehensive report generated with regards to the issues and concerns raised by residents about the proposed tower at Hemmerford Grove. Secondly, we are all aware that you have stated that the Gawler Community Land Management Plan is a work in progress. I'm sure many of us here would like to have some input into that process and its final content when it does get worked on, as this can and will affect all of the various communities in Gawler. We, as one of these communities, feel that the community land should be excluded from commercial enterprises unless it leaves the land available again to the community after a short-term use. By that I mean use of commercial displays, shows, etc. Thirdly, I also feel there has been an omission in the process of this development proposal and its review with regards to the way the communication industry operates. As a suggestion, I would ask that this council, and in fact all councils as a group or a collective, look at the rules, legislation, codes of practice of the communication industry that it is supposed to operate under with regards to these base stations. To ensure these codes, rules and legislations are adhered to as it was intended, I would like to suggest that the council or a collective of councils approach the relevant authorities, ministers, departments involved in managing and regulating and planning this rapidly growing and intrusive industry and request their assistance in controlling the already crazy number of towers that are being requested or being proposed for construction. The intention of these rules and codes and legislation is to minimise the impacts on communities, minimise the number of towers by using sharing arrangements with tower facilities and infrastructure in unobtrusive, low-impact locations. I think most of us would agree that this proposal is proving to be anything but. At the moment, it would appear there is a corporate struggle going on between the larger telcos, and we are the victims of their chase for profit and business share. The way things are going, we might end up with a phone tower on every block. I only have to walk 5 minutes from my home to see 6 of them. How many do we really need? With a large number of these towers already in and around Gawler, it is rapidly becoming a place that I and many others would no longer choose to live. And if it keeps going that way, I may even choose to leave. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, John Rose. Mitchell Flint, Regional SAED Manager, Downer Group.
Good evening, everyone. My name's actually Stephen. I'm here on behalf of Mitchell.
Stephen.
That's fine, though. I know there was some cross-communications happening. Good evening, everyone, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for the invitation to speak. I'm the planning lead from Downer. Downer is contracted by Indara to locate and build telecommunications sites. Indara is contracted by Optus to provide suitable infrastructure in areas they need to service for telecommunications purposes. We acknowledge Council has cited a lack of community support for the facility and will be recommending refusal. We are absolutely open to exploring alternative locations with Council if the lease is refused. However, Council must also consider community need, and that assessment of any alternative site would need to be fast-tracked given lengthy delays with this proposal. This needs to be a genuine collaboration, otherwise carriers will just leave the area to become a future black spot given the increasing density and development of the area. Given the predominantly residential nature of the area, the same pushback we face today will come again and again, and you will be having these same meetings again and again. We respectfully advise that we are providing an essential utility service. It is extremely rare that a tower will get widespread community support, although it does happen, and I have seen it happen before. And that does not mean that these facilities are not required. These facilities ultimately need to be placed somewhere, and we do not believe that there are any other locations suitable in this area. We have taken steps to reduce the impact of the facility as much as we can, and I remind you that on the planning grounds alone, the proposal was actually granted a permit. If this site does not proceed, we are concerned that there will be no way of improving connectivity in this area of Gawler East, particularly as it continues to expand over the southern side of Carlton Road, and will continue to experience very poor mobile service as capacity is increased from additional users. The need for the site, Optus identified a genuine need for improved mobile connectivity in the eastern part of Gawler. There are no existing base stations in this area, and surrounding base stations in the area cannot service this area properly. A number of base stations were noted in the original development application. Obviously, mobile base stations need to be close to the areas they are servicing. They need to be located as close as possible to the centre of the target coverage area to provide a feasible level of service. One of the difficulties we face is that Council does not forward plan for telecommunications infrastructure by reserving space for towers. This means that we need to retrofit sites into established communities. We agree with what Tanya just said earlier about future planning for telecommunications facilities needing to be adopted by Council and incorporated into planning policy. We endeavour to avoid residential areas where possible. However, in some cases, we need to place facilities in residential areas, especially if the area we're trying to cover is predominantly residential. In terms of visual impact, mobile base stations provide an essential utility service to local communities, but they do need to protrude above the surrounding environment. It's rare for telecommunications facilities to be totally hidden or screened from view. Telco facilities and infrastructure are no longer uncommon in an urban context. With mobile technologies being operational for over 3 decades, it is no longer unusual for mobile telco facilities to be sited close to developed areas. Noting that towers cannot be totally hidden, Indara and Optus attempt to minimise the visual impact of new facilities where possible. The location of the site within Hemmerford Grove was decided in discussion with Council. The specific location was chosen because, on balance, it was considered to have the lowest visual impact on the smallest number of adjacent properties. EME and safety. So, there is a strict safety standard that applies to all base stations, including this one. The facility will operate at levels much lower than those allowed by the standard. The standard is set by ARPANSA in association with the World Health Organisation and is in compliance with a standard regulated by ACMA. It is the position of the Australian Government that mobile base stations operating at up to 100% of the Australian standard are safe. This facility would be operating at levels representing just 2.4% of the standard. This is over 40 times lower than the levels considered safe by the government. A couple last things. We just wanted to say Council should discount any claims made by people who are not trained radio frequency engineers. I am not a radio frequency engineer, but I know that lots of people are not as well. There are radio frequency engineers who spend thousands of hours studying this field and understands the network and radio frequency much better than you or I or anyone here. Mobile base station performance is a highly technical matter, and council should not give credence to any comments about performance or perceived better options made by people who are not actually experts in this area. Finally, Indara does not believe there are any feasible alternatives on council land in this area. However, as I said earlier, we invite you and would love to work alongside you to find an alternative site that is suitable for the community to provide future service provision to the wider community. Thank you for your consideration of this proposal, and I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Isaac, Councillor Solomon.
Thanks.
It's not working. That's it.
Thank you, Mayor
That's
Edmund. Thank you. It might be a question to you, to staff, Mayor Edmund, but there seemed to be an assertion there that by refusing landowner consent and by allowing residents to engage with this process, that somehow delayed the project in a way which would be fatal. Obviously, no application is guaranteed to go through. So I'm just wondering if we can get a staff perspective on sort of what best practice would be in terms of seeking landowner consent so that you can forward plan for these kind of things, given that nothing's guaranteed.
I'll go to the CEO. There you go.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I might refer that to Wendy, who's got some expertise in this field.
Wendy.
Thank you.
There you go.
Thank you. Through you, Chair. That is quite a fascinating question, Councillor Solomon. And I feel like there's probably a little bit of a how long is a piece of string aspect to that question. I think in the ideal world where councils were working with telecommunications providers and we did have all this future planning, particularly in growth areas, I think that should be logically quite a quick turnaround in that scenario. However, when you're looking at well-established communities and you're looking at infill development, there is no way that a landowner consent can be given without the input and the genuine input of the community that is potentially impacted, and the impact is the broad of impact there. It may be, and I understand that there is also perception and reality of that impact, but in this case I think sometimes the perception is reality, and I think there is real things that are reality. And I think that process has to be done such that it is genuine and you do ensure that you've got that full informed position as the body that does make that decision on landowner consent. I think engagement, that said, can be planned very, very well so that you can make sure you do get genuine engagement from the outset, and I think probably most of the people sitting in a public forum area over there or the public gallery would agree that maybe this one didn't go as well as it could have from the outset. So I can't tell you what a fair and reasonable time frame is, but again, I guess being logical and in fairness to both a proponent and a community, you want that period of engagement to be reasonable such that you are not delaying a commercial enterprise and you are not providing an extended period of uncertainty or anxiety for a community. So it's behoving to us as staff to make sure we do plan that engagement reasonably. So sorry, I know that I didn't actually say a time frame, but they're all the things I would consider important in that.
Thank you, Wendy Young. Councillor White.
Thanks, Mayor. Through the chair, I just wanted to ask Stephen. First of all, Stephen, thank you for coming tonight. I acknowledge that you are doing a job and just want to remind everyone in the gallery tonight that it mustn't be easy for you to stand in front of 50 people that are dead against what you've got here for. But in saying that, I appreciate the advice that you have given to us tonight, and also I'm sure have given to council staff, and I'm sure we will take that on board when we are looking at, as Wendy has mentioned, looking at infill developments for telecommunications facilities that 20, 30 years ago weren't required. You know, we're always going to have this challenge and backlog. But I guess a request from me, particularly on behalf of the community, is for you to take back, when you go back to who is contracting you and work up the food chain, that these issues obviously do matter to the residents that live in this area. And while I acknowledge that companies and organisations and people that are contracting your company need to ultimately make a profit at the end of the day, there is huge community angst, and these people that are sitting around you have been quite anxious for the last 18 months. So if there is a way that private and public, corporate and government can work together, I think, to deliver the best outcomes ultimately for the community. For that to happen, I do believe it's really important that the concerns that have been heard tonight, you are able to take back. And we'll do what we can do, but we need you to do what you can do as well. So I appreciate you coming tonight and hope you can pass that along.
Thank you. Do you want to make a comment? No. Councillor Kosh?
Yeah, I just want to clarify two comments.
Yeah.
One of the comments that was made was that the site was chosen after consultation with council. I'm not sure whether that's the case or not. Maybe some clarity around that. And the second one is putting it back on council to find another location. But why is it council's responsibility to find another public space when that corporation could just go and talk to a developer, put it in place, and then people could choose to live around that tower in time? Because in this case, people have chosen to live there and something's been put there, but you could talk to a developer and you could put your tower in and people could choose to, if they want or not, to live around that tower. So I think it's almost back to the front. That's just two comments.
Do you want to make a comment, Wendy? There you go.
So again, through you, Chair, with regards to, I guess, the engagement between the proponent and council staff in terms of assessing potential locations. So a range were presented initially to council staff and advice was presented on whether they were at all viable, so some just purely weren't. I would maintain that at all times council staff kept saying, please try and find an alternate location, knowing that this was going to have community concern. And look, I won't comment on whose responsibility it is. At the end of the day, it probably is as we can to try and remove the type of process that we've just had.
Thank you, Wendy Young. Do you want to make a comment? No? Okay. Yes, so we will go to public open forum. We'll go to public open forum. Adrian Shackley is first. Yes. There you go.
Hello, this is relating to 12th Street. Much to my surprise, a week or so ago I wasn't expecting to be dealing with 12th Street, and I don't expect the councillors were either, so out of the blue. But the bluestone curbs in 12th Street have been there for about 120 years and they're doing very well. I just wanted to comment on some of what I think are factual matters in the report. Relating to complaints about 12th Street, I'm sure there are complaints about stormwater in the area. I suspect, though, a lot of them relate to the spoon drain near 8th Street where you go flying through, there's water flying everywhere and whatever. But anyway, just in terms of the curbing and the setup there, if you've had a look, the concrete parts of the curb are essentially at both ends, or really all at the western end. In the centre of the area, it's almost solid bluestone curbing. There's a couple of little patches of concrete near corners and where a couple of businesses have put in driveways that may have affected it. But, so there's more or less no curbing near Mitre 10 and, you know, about 300 metres or so of curbing up the western end. The rest is almost solid bluestone apart from, the actual driveways. And in relation to the driveways, the report says there's a crossover every 10 to 15 metres and talks about interrupted by concrete driveways. Well, I can tell you in that whole street, there's barely 10 concrete driveways. There might be 20 other driveways. That works out to a driveway about every 30 or 40 metres. And the reason for that is that on the southern side, all the way between 11th Street and 17th Street, which is nearly the whole of that length, there are no driveways. Because all those houses sit up on the road and their driveway, they'll park on the road or they have driveway access from the rear. In terms of the report talking about like for like, I would have thought like for like means replacing bluestone with bluestone. I'm really mystified by the idea that like for like means you get rid of all the bluestone and end up with concrete all over the rest of the town except Church Hill. Secondly, the report talks about, concentrating on Church Hill. Well, that's okay, but there's actually more bluestone curbing in Gawler South than there is in Church Hill, and it's in better condition in general. And it hasn't been the case that council's been carefully looking after Church Hill. We've got a rollover curb in Parnell Street that was put in only about 10 years ago, completely contradictory to the state heritage sort of policies, etc. And it's not true that council hasn't been doing bluestone curb restoration in other areas of the town. I can remember a section in Duffield Street, a section in Short Street, a section in Dundas Street, outside the heritage area, and also on 12th Street, the corners with 17th Street had bluestone carefully put in there only probably 3 or 4 years ago. And I think some of the areas of 12th Street may have actually been worked on as well, but I need to check that. There's a bigger picture here somewhere that's not coming through in this report. There's discussion about the Heritage Advisor saying they've provided previously general advice that it's a good idea to keep bluestone curbs, but haven't provided specific advice about 12th Street. Well, hey, have you asked them? I'm sure if their general advice is keep it, they'd say it for 12th Street. It is pretty much the best piece of bluestone in Gawler. The whole section there, it's very little of it's in poor condition. And at one stage the state of the bluestone is described as being in poor condition. It's not. There's sections that are in poor condition, particularly down on the eastern end where some of the businesses near 11th Street operate, but the stuff that's near the housing is in really very good condition. You try finding a better street in Gawler with bluestone. It's also different bluestone actually to what's in Church Hill. If you've seen the Church Hill bluestone, it tends to crumble. It's a softer sort of bluestone that obviously comes from the quarries in Backer Hill Street. I don't know where the stuff in Gawler South came from, but some of that, like it's over 100 years old, it is still sitting there square with the corners fully intact. It's harder and more resilient. And I tell you what, it'll outlast a fair bit of concrete curving as well, I would have thought, especially some of the rollover stuff we seem to cop. Over the page, in terms of costings, I don't want to talk too much about this, but because the street is sort of, 2/3 bluestone, 1/3 concrete, you can't come up with a formula that just says, oh, here's the cost of putting or having bluestone. If the bluestone's already there and all you have to do is look after it and maybe adjust it occasionally, that's a completely different situation to the 1/3 that's all concrete. And even if it was right, I mean, this says that the extra cost is $550,000, but the extra cost per metre is $320. So 1,100 metres of curb by $320 a metre is $350,000. So where's the other $200,000 going? This has all come out of the blue. Council needs to take some time, get a policy in place so that we know where we're going, because we've had bits and pieces of this argument over the years and it needs to be sorted. I mean, I had a lot to do with Sam Delena. He was probably in charge of most of these works when things were done over the last few years. So whatever sort of policy, like for like or whatever was in place, seems to have gone out the window with this report. So I urge councillors to take a bit of time and get some more information, and I think it'll be a good outcome if we do. Thank you.
Got 40 seconds.
I'm good.
Okay. Sue Colbeck. You want a question? Yeah.
Sorry.
Thanks, Mayor. Mr Shackley asked a couple of questions in there that I picked up on. I was hoping I can maybe defer to Wendy through you to answer them. In regards to, first of all, the complaints about Mr Shackley questioned the number of complaints. Maybe if we can just get some confirmation around the complaints around the street, and also the condition in regards to the bluestone curbing. I believe the report talked more about flooding as not just necessarily an aesthetic look, but the actual practicalities of the infrastructure. So maybe if we can get a little bit of commentary on that as well.
Wendy Young.
Thank you, through Chair, and thank you, Adrian. I think I think this is one of those topics where there's going to be lots of different thoughts and feelings, and I know that the heritage for our town is really, really important. Just back to basics of how many complaints we get in about 12th Street. I can't give you the empirical number, but I would say it would, on average, be at least 4 or 5 a month. One only has to look at any Facebook post that goes on up about anything to do with roads, and you will see the diatribe about 12th Street come through. Looking honestly, 12th Street complaints are equal only to Clark Road. Dalkeith Road probably comes in a nice third in that. Schomburg, but that's a different matter. That's not about the quality and condition, that's about speed. So in terms of condition of road, so 12th Street would be the most common road for complaints. So that's about the condition of the actual roadway itself. The drainage, local businesses actually experience flooding because of the poor drainage on that road. So absolutely very common road for complaint. In terms of the bluestone that's present itself on 12th Street, so again, it's just over half of it is bluestone in total. The condition of the bluestone does vary. A lot of it is in really good condition, which is probably one of the reasons why we'd absolutely love if it's taken out to store it and then reinstate it in Churchill, because as Adrian has very well said, the bluestone in Churchill is in terrible condition, and we really need to put something back in there that is going to have some longevity. The problem with 12th Street and the bluestone is that you can't just leave the bluestone that is there to do this road renewal. The grades of the road are all wrong. To make the drainage work, you actually have to change the entire grade of the road. I can't just say, okay, well, we'll keep the bluestone where it is and then work from there. In an ideal world, maybe you could, but to work in with, I guess, the constraints of what is a very flat level, plus the constraints of what DIT require in terms of the basically the level they need for their road renewal project, we actually have to take the bluestone out no matter what, and then we'd be reinstalling it at the new design level. So the cost, it's not just sticking it in, there's the cost to take it out and then the cost to put it back in. Does that answer your question, Councillor White? Yep.
Thank you. Councillor Hughes?
I'm not sure who might be able to answer this, but I was under the impression that at some stages we actually had a big stockpile somewhere of the bluestone. I'm hearing that the stuff that the depot has is limited, but I don't know whether ex-Councillor Shackley or anyone else knows of any stockpiles of bluestone in the area from some of the old quarries that are still around.
Do you know where the stockpile is? Brian does.
The quarries in Gawler South is where a lot of it comes up behind Harry Brown, the ex-councillor's place. There's still a lot in there.
Okay, thank you. Yeah.
It's at the council depot. There is some at a place on Somerton Road which we rescued in 2000 from the Woolworths site, which is to be delivered to the council when required. That was out of Jacob Street, the first time Jacob Street got upended.
I'll move on to Sue Colbeck. Sue Colbeck, 12th Street. Yeah, 12th Street. Yeah. Yeah. So, there you go.
Okay.
There you go.
Good evening, everybody, and thanks for giving me the just right. Okay, so going along, I would like to see the council reassess this proposal and give equal weight to the heritage of the town, and in particular the contributory heritage which the council has a few years back developed this other area. I'm concerned that heritage, the suggestion I get from reading the document is that heritage will be only important in Church Hill. Well, that's not true. We all know that heritage of the whole is what makes up our town properly, and this bluestone curbing is part of it. The economics of doing it, I don't know, but I'm imagining if you pick up all of those bluestone curbs and then transport them and they get damaged, they get left in the council depot for years on end, they'll be lost. And that's not right either. So that basically is my argument, is put heritage of the whole town in its place. And these little gems, as soon as we start chipping away at these little gems, the whole of the heritage of Gawler gets undermined. We just have to do something about it.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Adrian Brown, curbs. Adrian Brown, curbs. Yeah. There you go.
I didn't know I had a hyphenated second name.
Adrian Brown.
I'd really like to just reinforce what the others have said about the curbing, the bluestone curbing in 12th Street. I drove along it this evening, and you can see that a large proportion of the curbing on that thoroughfare is bluestone, and a lot of it's still in quite good condition. I think it's something like 60% of it is still sitting there. And that roadway, I see it as quite an important thoroughfare today and historically, leading between the station and the main street. So that's probably why they had a nice bluestone curbing edges. I've watched, over the years, I watched the bluestone being repaired in Cowan Street. It was a lovely job that they did there. I think council did. It probably took a bit of time, but it was really well done, and so it can be done. I've also seen it off of Churchill. I've seen it done in our street, in Duffield Street, down in the dip, and that was a nice job. And so I really would prefer that perhaps council just delay doing the curbing job if it can't be fitted within this budget, and do it in the next year rather than lose the curbing and have the whole thing replaced with concrete. That's really all I've got to say.
Thank you, Adrian Brown. Wayne Lay, 12th Street curb renewal.
And attendees. I'd like to introduce myself first. Obviously, I'm a local resident, been around probably 18, 19 years, and fully restored my home on 12th Street, taking all the plaster off, bringing it back to brick, spent thousands of dollars, restored the stone wall, Never asked for a grant, never asked for anything, did it all myself. And then Adrian came to me on Sunday, telling me about this. So, in my opinion, I'll have 4 good points. First off is heritage and character of Gawler. The bluestone guttering is an integral part of Gawler's streetscape and history. It reflects the town's heritage and contributes to the visual identity of our area. Gawler prides itself on being South Australia's oldest country town. Retaining these historic features maintains that legacy. The street appeal and the property values. The aesthetic appeal of the bluestone enhances the character of our town, making it unique compared to other suburbs with standard concrete. Many property buyers are drawn to the heritage areas. Removing bluestone could diminish property values. Other heritage towns prioritise preserving their unique streetscapes. Gawler should do the same. If you drive into Tanunda, any of these areas, the first thing you see is how beautiful they are. 12th Street's a major thoroughfare of Gawler, and if we can be unique and keep this bluestone, maybe do some trees there. It's the only one now that hasn't really been touched. Obviously, there's been a little bit of work with the childcare and a few other little businesses, but mainly it's still old. And Churchill might be great, fantastic, but it's not a major thoroughfare. We go through 12th Street to get to the main street. For the durability and longevity, bluestone, when maintained, is highly durable and has already withstood the test of time. Concrete deteriorates faster, requires more frequent replacement and potentially higher long-term costs. Instead of full replacement, repairing the bluestone where needed ensures longevity while preserving the heritage. And for environmental and sustainable considerations, reusing and repairing bluestone is more sustainable than removing it and using new concrete materials. Concrete produces a higher carbon footprint compared to maintaining existing bluestone. Historic materials like bluestone can be maintained with minimal environment impact. My background's in civil construction. I've actually replaced slate and bluestone in the Gawler area probably about 10 years ago, and I've also done cement curbing. I used to put in Telstra man pits in roads and in footpaths, so I've got experience with both. And if you ask my personal opinion, it's a lot easier if a tree root digs up a bit of bluestone is to replace it with bluestone. To use concrete, you've got to cut it out, re-owe it and put it back, and it's more time consuming. So really, obviously the costs of replacing it is going to be a little bit higher, but over the long term it's going to be easier. And in closing, I really think that postponing the project until the bluestone curb policy is finalised might be the easiest way to go and give us as residents more time to actually get a bit of an understanding. I've had one day to think about what to say, and then obviously if I walk down the street and have a look, like everyone else has said, it's not that bad. There are areas certainly that are dangerous. There's areas where it's sharp and it needs to be fixed, but they've been like that for 10 years, so no one's really bothered about repairing up until now. Now all of a sudden you want to replace it with a cement, which doesn't really do any justice to the street. Thank you.
Thank you, Wayne Lay. Jeannie Green, Quickest Warmth project.
Thank you, everyone. I've come to say thank you to the council who about 18 months ago donated one little room of the Gawler Elderly Centre and the shed. And I just came to say thank you for it and to let you know that it is growing and that the Quickest Warmth project was devised by Prue O'Donovan, who has recently died, and to provide warmth and love to the families who are in need of help. And there's a lot more of them coming. It began with a donation of 7 quilts to Families SA, now the Department of Child Protection, for children going into foster care, so they had something to keep and take with them. Now, 10 years later, the project has over 150 contributors throughout the southern area, as well as the northern one, and they make or purchase items for individuals and families experiencing homelessness, those going into rental accommodation for shelters, people who are victims of domestic violence, and even refugees. It also supplies assistance to those who've lost their home through fire or hard times, and requests are being received from agencies, churches or schools throughout the whole northern area. My aim in coming today is I feel you have many more contacts than I have, or we as a little group have, that you may know places that need our support, that you might be able to contact us with. We have moved into Gawler B12 College and are helping the childcare centre with clothes and children's clothes and activity packs and all sorts of things. I do not have the time to go out to every school and give a blurb, but I feel sure there are people here who would be able to pass that message on. So if you know places, we have placed, we have 7 packages, and the 7 packages have been placed in a few churches around. I also haven't had time to contact the others or agencies that I don't know around here. Okay, so I'm actually coming to say thank you, but also coming to say if you know of people who need help, they need to go through an agency or a school, because we don't make direct contact with them for our own safety, and also so we do not know who it is going to. So the project does knitted blankets. We make 7 packs: bedding, cleaning, bathroom, table, kitchen and hygiene packs. We also have sleeping bags. The project also supplies toys and activity packs for children, and clothing is supplied to some of the children through the school welfare officers who need it, okay? And I had an idea on my way up here tonight that we might be able to put some activity packs into the hospital waiting rooms, which I just thought of. But again, so it just keeps growing. So if you have ideas of where we can go or how we can help. Last year, from that little tiny room and the shed, we did nearly 2,000 packages.
2,000 packages.
2,000 packages that went out into the northern area. And without Anglicare bringing goods and taking them back for us, we would be lost. So thank you to you for your part in the contribution.
Thank you. Thank you, Jeannie Green.
I've got a note for all of you, and I've got the 7 packs that we do for all of you to take so you can spread the good news.
That's great. So, Councillor Solomon, you want to make a personal explanation. I need to seek leave of the what? Oh, right. Okay. Okay, so deputations, adjourned items nil, petitions nil, confirmation of minutes, ordinary council meeting 28th of January 2025. Do you want to move that way? Yeah, thank you, Councillor Hughes. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Davies. I'll just wait to put it up. Yeah. So, all those in favour? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Business arising from minutes? Yeah. Okay. Okay. Do we seek leave from the council to do a personal explanation? So, hands up. Hands up. Great, great. That's 2/3. 2/3. Yeah.
Thank you, Mayor Edmund. Just before we debate this item, I thought it was prudent just to give a personal explanation. I don't believe there's any conflict of interest here, but I thought I should explain because I know it's caused some confusion in the past, but just in relation to my role as the elected member on the council assessment panel. At the time, I decided to excuse myself from that CAP meeting in relation to the telecommunications tower, and I provided the chair with 2 reasons for that. First, I foreshadowed that I would seek to participate in this current decision that council's making as a landowner, and I thought that it would be a conflict of interest to act in both capacities, as both a landowner making a decision and as the independent assessment authority for the tower, and also that CAP has strict provisions around being able to engage with residents, visit the site, etc. But I felt that it was that my role as a councillor took precedence over my role on the CAP, and therefore I did engage with the community and went and attended those forums here in the Civic Centre and at the site. So I do not believe any conflict of interest exists, but I just wanted to explain that and why no elected member was present at that CAP meeting.
Thank you. Thank you. So, Councillor Solomon will seek leave of the chamber to make a personal explanation. You've done that. So we now move on to 9.1. Hemmerford Grove Reserve Telecommunications Facility landowner consent. Yeah.
Thank you, Mayor Karen. I have much pleasure in asking for the full support of elected members here tonight. You have heard some very passionate people here tonight listening to Tanya, Glenn and Ray and John. And as the officer's recommendation says, it notes the status. Well, okay, yes, we certainly note it. But the most important part is number 2, refuse the landowner consent for the proposed communications facility at Hemmerford Grove Reserve. One thing that Ray, in his very passionate speech, said about it with all the facts, and Tanya as well with the facts that they had looked into all that, calling the people together. It just showed that community is working, as other people have said. But the other part about it too, to do with Ray, is that Ray's father, and I don't know whether Ray ever milked the cows, but he had a dairy farm there and that sort of thing. And the Koshel and the Mellows family owned all that land. And when it was subdivided, they donated that land for the community. And that's so important. And that's got to be the way it's got to stay. So I'm happy to move that motion and ask for elected member support.
Approve? You approve the... Okay, okay. So you changed the wording...
No, I haven't changed anything.
What?
He's just moving the motion.
Oh, right, okay. Okay, so you... Councillor Vallelonga, yeah, you seconded it, yeah. So, all those in favour? Oh, we've got discussion. We've got discussion. Yeah. Turn your microphone on. Yeah, turn your microphone.
Yep, I've got a question.
Yeah.
One of the issues that was raised in this whole process is that if it goes through a whole lot of steps.
Yeah.
And if it's refused, if you don't get owner consent, there could be an appeal. What's the ramifications there for the council? Just so we're clear, because I get an idea where this is going, but I just want to make sure that
Wendy
we
Young,
come with our eyes open when we make this decision.
turn your microphone on.
Yep.
There you go.
So through the chair, I won't talk about legal advice in a public session.
No.
However, there has been previous briefings around this, so back in the May 2024 meeting, so I can refer you back to that advice. I believe that we have acted consistent with that advice, and I did seek counsel as part of preparing this. As it's clear in the report, like legally the council is at its own liberty to approve or reject landowner consent. I think I'll leave it at that.
Does that answer your question?
To clarify, there is an appeal process that can happen after this if we refuse it. So as long as people are aware of that, I mean, I know where it's going, but I just, as people have got their eyes open, we made that decision, that's all. So it could lead,
Councillor White, you wanted to speak? You wanted to speak? Yeah?
Thanks, Mayor. Yes, no, happy to speak. Happy to support the officer's recommendation. I'll leave the details of the reasoning why I think that's been covered tonight with the community that's been out here to discuss this with us, and they have been for the past 18 months or so. I really just wanted to express my sincere thanks on behalf of, I believe, all elected members and council staff on the community for engaging so proactively in this matter. You're obviously all very, very passionate about this, and rightly so. But as councillors, as your elected representatives, you know, we're quite honoured to be in this position, but we do rely heavily on our community actively engaging with us in order for us to make the right decision. So for that reason, a big thank you to you all for proactively engaging on this. It's fantastic to hear that there's actually been some great benefits out of this, not just I think what we're about to decide tonight, but also that as neighbours you've maybe all become a bit closer and have got a bit of a shared bond, which is fantastic, and hopefully you can continue that as you, you know, live in a fantastic part of our beautiful town. And I would really encourage you to please continue actively engaging with council on all of our, we have a range of public consultations that go up every single year. We're just entering budget season now, and I would strongly encourage you all to please continue actively engaging and proactively engage. If there are other things that you see in our town that you think you want to improve, please let us know, because without you letting us know, we can't actually do our job. So most importantly though, a big thank you, and yes, very much happy to support the officer's recommendation.
Thank you. Councillor Solomon?
Thank you, Mayor. I'll speak in support of the motion, like my colleagues, and I just wanted to start by saying that one of the most common things that I hear and have heard in my term as a councillor is when we look at things like this, people in the community saying, oh, well, this decision has already been made. And if we can prove one thing, and I hope that if we can prove one thing in this last 2 years of this term of council, is that we are ready to listen to our community, we are ready to engage, and where we say we go out to listen to the community, we do. So I'm going to support this motion to refuse the landowner consent tonight on the basis that the residents who have come and engaged with us throughout this process have done so in all of the right ways. And I would take what Councillor White said before and thank Stephen for coming out. It's not an easy position to be in. However, I did pick up a part of, there was a rebuttal there about some science in relation to telecommunications towers, and it was almost preempting that was going to be raised, but that wasn't a relevant consideration. Everyone who engaged stuck to the relevant considerations that we should take into account as the landowner, and that's what they came to us with and advocated for. And so I think that this report and what has been captured represents genuine reasons why we should refuse landowner consent as part of this. I just want to add that, of course, telecommunications is an essential service like water, like electricity, all of these things, and I think that we do actually have a role to play in the future when we are planning for growth, and we are going to undergo massive growth in the near future, that we do play our role in planning these things. Of course, telecommunications is while it is a federal matter and is regulated by the federal government, we can play a part in making sure that we're reaching those goals. And I think it was mentioned earlier, the non-proliferation of infrastructure. We have private interests who are competing in a market here, but that's what we're here for as a level of government, is to regulate that and to push them to do the right thing so that we get minimum impact, but minimum impact on our community from that, but maximum benefit as part of that as well. And I think that the decision we're making tonight, in view of where our community land management plan is at, is completely appropriate. I think it was Mr. Kosher who talked about goodwill earlier. And I think that as we develop these plans, there is a lot of goodwill there in the community to actually look at what this reserve could be. And it's not just about stopping the telecommunications tower, but it's people in that community who actually do value this not so green space, what's the word for it, who do value the reserve there and want to make sure that it's something that they get to benefit from. That being said, I'll leave it at that and support this motion.
Thank you. Paul Kosh.
Thanks, Mayor. Mayor, I'll be supporting this motion to refuse the landowner consent. I've looked at the application and I can find a lot of flaws in it, as was mentioned by the representations tonight. I won't go through all them, but I agree with what was said. I think there's a case here where telecommunications need to be put in place beforehand so people can choose if they want to live around it, not necessarily imposing on people. I think that's an issue. And also, I'd just like to say I actually agree with the chair of the CAP when he said that it was out of character with putting that telecommunication tower into that area. It was out of character, plus a whole range of other reasons. So for that reason, I'll be supporting this motion. Thank you.
Councillor Davies.
Yeah, so I'm also happy to support the motion. I agree with the comments around community engagement. I think we've had issues in the past with getting community feedback on a lot of things. Like I think our budget got 7, 8 responses last year in total. But I think part of that is also we need to be shown to be people who listen when we put it out for community consultation. Otherwise, people go, oh, well, I've said it 5 times before, and no one seems to listen, and they just tune out of the process. So I think if we go out to community consultation for something, there needs to be an expectation that we are prepared to change our decision, and we are prepared to listen to new evidence. And so, I think that's something that's valuable to do. And yeah, I look forward to the further discussions about what else we can do with the park as well. And I don't, I don't begrudge the CAP. They have a different role than we do. They're there to make sure that the tower isn't going to fall over. More so than our role in this. And so they've done their part, and I think this is us doing our part.
Deputy Mayor.
Thank you. Just to, build on some of the comments. Firstly, I'm going to support the motion. But I think this is a really good example of that same sentiment that I really feel like the last couple of years, especially in this chamber, it has been around development happening to us instead of with us. And I'll pick up on Councillor Kosh's very valid point, which actually was agreed by Stephen from Downer in regards to thinking about critical infrastructure, whether or not we're talking about telcos, which we are tonight, but link roads, schools, childcare, commercial precinct, whatever we're talking about in social or telco infrastructure, whatever we are talking about, we actually need to be thinking about that leading into whatever development we are open for business for. I think in the past, the development that's happened to us, we've been playing catch up for far too long. and we are actually seeing the ramifications of these things. And we are seeing in a free market, the opportunities come through where the density of our area is actually quite attractive to your Optuses. They're not doing us a favour by coming in, per se. we're doing a favour by paying our bills and they're providing a service. It's a transactional piece. If we're proactive in our plans on what we will accept, when we say we're open for business, we're not reactive, we're proactive, which touches on Councillor Koch's point in relation to telecommunications tower in this example, being there prior to houses so people actually have the choice. And, there might be a change in price tag for that 3-bedroom house for the young. We don't actually start looking through those lenses until we actually drill down on community land management plans, for example, our urban centre design framework, and all this jargonese that comes out of it, it actually all links together. And that's where we do need that input. That's where we need to be able to be proactive. So when people want to come to Gawler to do business, we're not saying get stuffed. Here's some solutions that actually benefits our community today and our community tomorrow without hindering what we have come to love about the essence of Gawler. Anyway, bit of a rant there, but very keen to support this one because it is a very good example of making sure that we are showing our community is still strong as ever and we are willing to say, hey, what we will accept and what we won't. Now the onus is going to be us as the Chamber and us as a community to make sure that we're proactive and we make sure that we show we are open for business.
So, any other discussion? Any other discussion? I will put that motion. Oh, you want to wrap up the debate? Okay.
To Councillor Koch, you heard the passion from out there. It's strong. And if our local paper, The Bunyip, gets that story and really promotes it, maybe a lot of other people in this town of 22,400 people might also feel the same way and support a lot of the projects that happen. So I'd only say, and they will say, I'm sure, bring it on if there's a challenge. And certainly Stephen, he's a man that's that wanted to build the tower and everything and so forth. But there's other areas. On the edge of the quarry. It might even fall in the quarry if it's not built properly and so forth, but it's higher land than that there. Those sort of things were not looked at, and that's where I believe it's wrong. As regards to, talking about turning the water on, that's the next project. Let's see if we can get that water on, hopefully it'll rain and so forth. Get a farmer to clean the three-corner jacks off it with their new machines they've got, that they pluck up clover. We put a $500,000 playground there that was actually destroyed. No one got prosecuted. A lot of people know who it was. Yeah. $500,000 playground, which is fantastic, but the kids can't go out and play in the field where they want to. So I think we've got a long way to go here. We've got a passionate group and we'll keep fighting. So please support this motion.
Thank you. I'll put that motion. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Thank you. So 9.2, Audit and Risk Committee appointment of independent member. That council endorsed the selection panel's recommendation that Mr Ben Watkins be appointed as independent member to the Audit and Risk Committee for an initial term of 3 years, commencing 3rd March 2025. Do you want to move that way? Yeah, you second it. No. Can you talk to it, David?
Yeah, just quickly. Very happy this went to market. We did get some fantastic candidates and this was outstanding. So, yeah, very happy to support it. Thanks.
You want a Deputy Mayor? You want to support the Deputy Mayor Shanks. Deputy Mayor Shanks, yeah. So, oh, you want to speak?
Yeah, thank you. Just quickly, Mayor. Firstly, I'm looking forward to working with Ben Watkins. As my colleagues know, the Mayor and I are on the audit and risk.
Yeah.
We had some great talent run through.
Yeah.
But I'd also just like to take the opportunity to really thank Peter Felly-Jones as well for his contribution to our audit and risk. He's been on that committee for, I feel like it's 14 years or something along those lines. And I've always enjoyed the conversations that we get into in that space. He's a very knowledgeable person and very gracious in sort of stepping aside and allowing council to go on this direction. There is no animosity from him at all, and he's really excited for us, and we'll still be watching the space regardless. I just wanted to put that out there and really look forward to working with Ben in where we go next.
It was a very good process. It was a very, very good process, yes. Yes.
Just a question, Mayor, through you. On page 11, it actually says that we could put this position for a period of up to 4 years, and yet in the recommendation it's actually an initial term of 3. Could I just query why we didn't choose the 4? There must be some explanation. Just a general question.
Sharon.
Through the Mayor, I suppose the term and the initial term was based on the existing conclusion of the other independent members in their time, and just making sure that we've actually got that continuity of those independent members, and there's a sufficient crossover.
Thank you. That answers your question. Thank you. We've got a mover and a seconder, and I'm going to put that motion. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Thank you. So, Helen, do you want to?
Thank you, Mayor. As my colleagues know, early yesterday morning, I sent round an alternative motion, which is up there on the board. Since then, of course, there's been additional information forwarded, for which I'm very grateful, and I thank the staff. It turns out that, in fact, there's the alternative. Thank you. It turns out, in fact, that it is prepared to wait until we undertake some work around Bluestone policy. So I would like to please change that. Please get rid of point 2 and finish the first one at the word policy. So now what I'm suggesting is that we defer the 12th Street renewal and upgrade project until we actually have a Bluestone policy in place. As you know, we have the City of Burnside one that's been provided. I think it is time, you've heard from the people who've spoken tonight, I think it's time for us to actually create or maybe even adapt a similar policy. Take it out to the community, get some consultation happening, and then we will know what it is we're going to do to protect the heritage of this town. Not just the large buildings, but all the intricate bits and pieces that make up a heritage landscape. I think it's something we put in all our strategic policies, that we encourage everybody to conserve and protect our heritage. We ask our residents to do it, we ask our builders to do it, we ask our developers to do it. We need to model that, and I think with the time now to create the policy, it also gives our staff some time to go out and, using their skills, come back with some creative solutions based on what we've already heard for tonight. I think, as we know from the timing, it's still in a project draft situation. It was never going to be. I'd be very doubtful that there was ever any intention to try and get that road fixed in this financial year. a bit more time, and I think we can have a win-win situation. So I seek your support for the alternative motion. Thank you.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Hughes. Thank you. Do you wish to speak?
Yeah, just briefly. I mean, we've heard from people from the gallery tonight about, and actually people that live on 12th Street, which I think is really important as well. But Gawler is that heritage town, and if it does cost a little bit more, we need to protect our heritage across the whole of the town, not just Churchill. And we do have the old quarries around the place. I mean, I think it's a unique feature that we need that policy and need to work at it. I mean, I've got rollover curve for my driveway, and it hasn't lasted 9 years, concrete. And you see the old bluestone that's 120 years or more.
It is 120 years old.
Yeah. So, yeah, to me, I think Gawler needs those unique, and bluestone curbing is that unique difference. And I think if we can put it in, especially those high-profile streets, it is a long street, it is a dip street, but we're responsible, I believe, from the curve onwards. But yeah, I think it's really important to have this policy as well. So happy to support it.
Thank you for those comments. Councillor Samble.
Mayor Karen, may I have some confirmation on 12th Street? Many times there's been things come up and people complain about the flooding and things like that and so forth, and at this particular point in time we're talking of $993,000, which is, you know, a fair bit of money. And yet Dipti, who I've been informed, own the road.
Yeah, they do. They do own
the road.
They do own the road.
They will only give us $400,000 if they own the road. Can we have a bit of clarification here, because we ain't got too much money in the bin, and there's between 400 and 993 is a fair bit of difference.
Wendy Young.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Samble. I know that this is a question that gets all of our community really confused. So, 12th Street, the carriageway that the vehicles move over, is owned and maintained by DIT. Yeah. So when we get the complaints around potholes and all the rest of it and the poor state of the road, they get referred on to DIT, and their operations crews come in and do patching or pothole repair works. The parking bays to the side of the main carriageway, the curb, the gutter, the footpath, that is all council's asset to own and maintain. So the drainage issues, let's say down around the 12th Street and Adelaide Road, that is council's issue to manage and resolve. Likewise, whether we keep bluestone curb or not is also council's issue to decide on as well. I will say, so I just think it is important for me to clarify, it has actually taken a number of years of me advocating to DIT to get 12th Street renewal up in their priority list. Now, DIT is obviously a major, like the biggest state government department, and is running absolutely huge capital projects. So the renewal of 12th Street, while it may seem large to us, is actually a minor project for them. State government budgets work in financial years. You don't do the work, there's no guarantee it's going to come forward into the next financial year. So carry forward isn't guaranteed. We have had some preliminary conversations with DIT to sound out what the likelihood of them being able to do the work next financial year is. So again, this is preliminary conversation only. They were nominally, they indicated that it may be possible, but look, I can't put a guarantee on that. But I guess we thought, you know, we'd rather be transparent and say, not try and use that as an excuse to delay the project, because we as staff totally agree that, you know, this is an important conversation to have. But it is only an indication that they will be able to move it forward. and I'm sure there's people around this table who, would love to not have the complaints keeping on going into the future. But I don't think that's obviously not the single point of decision making tonight.
Thank you, Wendy Young. Councillor Koch.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Look, I'll be supporting this amended motion on a number of reasons. The first one is that when I look at our community plan, I look at goal 1 and 1 point. You want to put 1.3.3, is it? Promote. Okay.
3.3.
What's that?
3.3.
Oh, it's 3.3. I'm looking at something else then,
yeah.
am I? Okay, recognise and respect. Oh, no, it's not. No, anyway, in there, I've just read it, but in there, in our plan, it says that we need to be supporting the heritage of our town.
Yeah.
And this is what we should be doing, because this is what our community has actually asked for, and it comes up over and over again in our community plan. Every time we do consultation, it's one of the first things that people say: the uniqueness of Gawler, the heritage, and the character of Gawler. I think this is important to get this policy in place. The other important thing is that we've just gone through a whole lot of community consultation about the tower, and we've respected that consultation, and we've given time to that consultation, and we've taken that consultation into our decision making. This is another opportunity to undertake community consultation around a very important issue, because we can go through that we can go through the community consultation and really understand the importance of maintaining and enhancing our heritage characteristics of our town, because it is actually, it's really important for our town.
We've got beautiful heritage.
Yeah, it is. And I would hate to think that we would do heritage of our town piece by piece. It's death by 1,000 cuts, just a little bit, and then all of a sudden it's gone. Yeah. And you look around and it's gone, and you think, why didn't I do something? So I am supporting this, and it's heartening to know that potentially that it can just be deferred. We can go, that work can be deferred, and that we can get this consultation done. We can get the policy in place, and that way we're enhancing the heritage values of our town.
Thank you.
So I'm quite happy to support this.
Yeah, thank you for those words.
Yep.
Any other discussion, Councillor Solomon?
Quick question, if I can, Mayor, through you. Perhaps to Wendy. I apologise if it's already been clarified, but there's obviously a lot of chopping and changing which has happened with this. I'm just seeking to understand the potential budget implications of this and what the figures are, given everything that's just been said about delaying the project, etc.
I'll go to Wendy. Wendy Young.
Yeah, sure. So through you, Chair. So we've provided some preliminary advice back in response to the proposal for an amended motion. So look, at an upper limit, we're talking about an extra $500,000 just for 12th Street. Look, it's going to be somewhere, and like Adrian Shackley did, asked a question before on, what's the difference between the 350 and the 500,000. Look, what I can tell you is that the rates for curb renewal from concrete to slate or to bluestone, the bluestone renewal is 400%, or 400% more, or four times the amount of concrete. So I just want to take this opportunity to say this. When you look at, the IPWEA guidelines for asset management, the principles are that you renew like for like and like for like to current engineering standards. Therefore, it is actually, where there isn't a state heritage listing for an area, it is actually entirely appropriate, according to asset management principles, for us to propose the way forward as we are, especially when, it's not only for us to consider how we maximise I'm charged with a $16 million capital budget, and I've got to try and assist council make wise budgeting choices over where that's going to be invested. In this case, where let's say the bluestone renewal costs an extra $350,000. I guess the question is, would you rather take that out of the nearly $1 million of projects we're proposing for Church Hill next year, so that you actually achieve less outcomes in that area, but you've achieved this in 12th Street. So this is where the balances of where you're going to invest your money, and I totally know that the community plan has heritage as one of our key things, and I know that this is really important to our town. However, I will refer back to some of the earlier comments that we also have to work to our long-term financial plan, which means we are actually capped at what we should be spending in terms of renewal and capital upgrade. And so every time I make a decision that we're going to spend more on one area of renewal versus another, you know, it's the pros and cons. And I feel like I'm waffling a bit, but I hope I'm sort of giving you all the understanding of the design basis decisions are not made to try and undermine heritage. Indeed, I'd actually argue that we try and make them so that we can maximise heritage outcomes in key areas rather than having a couple of 100 metres of curb here or a couple of 100 metres of curb there and not have a whole area that is actually in, you know, pristine heritage condition, so it actually becomes the highlight of the town. But I know that there'd be lots of other perspectives on that, and I'm not trying to say that the couple of 100 metres somewhere else isn't of higher value to someone than Church Hill. So, as I said at the beginning of this meeting, I know that there's going to be a range of perspectives on this one, and I guess we just try and make the most balanced from all the things we're trying to meet in our space.
So does that answer your question?
Partially does. I guess one of the things I was seeking to understand as well, obviously there's the upper limit, 550 for the cost of the bluestone, but is there costs associated with delaying the project also? Obviously, taking into consideration that you probably wouldn't want to delay it, do a policy, come back and then decide to do it concrete anyway.
Can you turn your microphone off? There you go.
So through the chair, I don't think there's necessarily going to be cost to council from delaying the project. It's going to be $1 million carry forward on your bottom line. Like that is what it is going to be, because the reality is, even if we got a policy to council by for next council meeting, that another delay in month of procurement means that we won't deliver the project one way or another by the end of financial year. So there's going to be a carry forward. If the decision is to retain the bluestone, we're going to have to go back. Backtrack on our design, so we probably are. There might be like $15,000-$20,000 in design cost to do, but I mean that's still $15,000-$20,000 of ratepayers' money. Like, so I mean, obviously we don't want to have to do that. But in terms of, I guess, a major cost impost, no. But I'm making it clear that that will be a carry forward on your books if we go this way.
Thank you. Councillor Hennessy, do you want to wrap up debate? Oh, you want to talk? You want to speak?
Just another question through you, Mayor. I understand where we're coming from for the conversation. Don't get me wrong. But trying to understand the material effects, I guess, is where I'm just trying to get to. You know, the one or the other mentality, I think, is something we do need to have the conversation piece on, and I need to understand, to make an informed decision, we do need to understand, and in staff's defence, you're never going to be able to understand that until you actually scope both options, because at this point in time, honestly, I think the higher limit of $500,000 is probably a little bit inflated, but if I'm staff playing guessing game ad hoc, I'm going to give you $500,000 price tag as well, because I don't want to be caught out by a couple of $100,000. So just, I guess, process through you, Mayor, to the CEO on actually trying to inform the chamber of the domino effect or the material change, or how do you see this playing out to get us to the point of making informed decisions, which way to go?
Through you, Madam Mayor. I think if this motion is to get up, the policy, bringing back the policy to council, we'll have to do some work to try and understand an accurate unit rate of this lift and replace concept of bluestone. So we'll do some work with industry benchmarks. Obviously, the figure was arrived at fairly quickly to assist tonight's discussion. So the policy will have to look across the council area at all possible interventions that might need to occur. The policy, if we reflect on the Burnside policy for a minute, it may not recommend to you that you do everything, but in bringing that policy position back to council, whatever it says, I don't want to preempt it tonight, I'll make sure that council is given the full cost implications about what making each decision point may mean. So, for example, at one end of the spectrum, the policy could say any bit of bluestone will be preserved and replaced. That's the upper end of it, and then obviously there's all sorts of machinations that I'll try and explore and put back to you a balanced position on. But council will have all the information before it to make an informed decision, and that's what you need in this case. I was just talking with Wendy earlier. If this does get up, we will defer Porter Street as well. There's a current renewal project planned there because that has some bluestone components as well. So obviously, just it would be remiss of me to have this conversation about 12th Street and then continue on with Porter Street. So that's another, is that about a $500,000 project at this stage, which we would just carry forward at this point in time. But yes, so I'll be doing all my power to bring back as accurate estimate on increased costs as I can, so council can make an informed decision. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. CEO, Councillor Davies and then Councillor White.
So just looking at an estimated budget increase of approximately 548,000, it says, which is well, quite big. Is that, because we've been talking about how there's bluestone, I don't know, in the depot, in the quarries, or like, is that including a procurement of bluestone, or is that entirely about the costs of actually doing the curbing? Wasn't sure.
We'll go to Wendy. Yeah.
So the unit rate we use to derive that cost is from recent tender pricing or tender submissions that we've had. I won't put the exact unit rate on because that wouldn't be very appropriate. But that is for, now Ashley might just have to make sure I get this right, that is for the supply and install of the bluestone. Yep, so the...
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Does that answer your question?
So just quickly, so the supply and install means they supply the bluestone and then install it? Yeah, okay.
That's correct. Councillor White?
Thanks, Mayor. I just have a question and then I'd like to speak to the motion. The question through the chair is if works were delayed, how does that work with DIT in regards to, will they reseal the road and then we do the curbing at a later date? Is there, I'm assuming there's some sort of collaboration that takes place with that would make more sense, but how would that work if, this is delayed 6-12 months? Is that what the future looks like?
So through you, Chair, so the standard approach to a road renewal project is that you do your curb and gutter first, then you get your road resealed, so in this case it would be the road and the car park bays, and then if you're doing footpath renewal, you do footpath renewal after that. So we do need to do our curb first, yes, because ultimately the curb sets the levels for the carriageway, and the carriageway then sits. The levels of the curb sit, make sure that the count of the road is correct, so you got, it's all very connected, but you want your curbs in first.
Does that answer your question? Yeah, thank you. Oh, yeah, you can speak.
Thank you, Mayor Redmond, and thank you, Wendy. I appreciate your infrastructure one-on-one lessons that we have throughout our council meetings. Look, I just want to start off by really thanking, first of all, Councillor Hennessy for her advocacy in this space. We know how much of a passionate supporter you are of our heritage, and I think we all are for our town. And also want to thank the community who are extremely passionate about our heritage, and thank you for coming and informing us. I think, if you were to look at this report you know, when I first read out Liadays and I went, okay, yep, no worries, we're replacing the curbs. But for you to come and inform us of, you know, your passion and, you know, I think has enlightened me of, oh, wow, actually, no, this is a lot more than just what's written on the page. So I really do appreciate you coming out. It means a lot, and please don't ever stop doing that, okay? I'm honestly really torn with this one, and I think normally, you know, I'm lucky that I've sat here for a couple of years now, and normally when I feel torn, it means I don't have quite enough information, because normally I can feel pretty confident on the decisions on behalf of the community. When I'm torn, it normally means I'm uneasy, which means I'm missing a few pieces, and I think it's pretty obvious that there are a few pieces missing at this stage. I can see both sides of the argument. I can understand completely that this road is on DIT's list to get done by June 30, and for that to happen, we need to get our curbs in. We need to go straight ahead because maybe it won't be on their budget next year, or maybe they will push it down the line. Wendy and her team have advocated strongly to get this done. Why would we want to rock the boat now when there's been potentially years of work to get here? Totally understand that point. I also understand that, yes, when we look at heritage, it isn't just about nice old buildings. It is these, you know, potentially quirky and overlooked pieces of infrastructure that actually add huge value to our town, to the street, to the residents that live there. I completely understand that too. Look, money. Looking at $400,000 extra, that's a lot of money. Like, and yes, you know, I completely understand, you know, where do we value heritage? You know, is there a price on it? No, there probably isn't, and I agree with that. Do we want to spend that extra money on curbing when we could be spending it on restoring, you know, other parts of the town's heritage? Maybe. Right. Can I look other community members in the eye and say, hey, I've just said yes to approving 400 grand, but I'm sorry, you know, no new footy clubs rooms, or actually, no, we're not going to be fixing your footpath and you're going to trip over it every day. Like, you know, this is the constant battle that we're in, and stuff only lands on our desks when that's the decision that has to be made. That's our jobs. That's why we're on the big bucks, allegedly. So it's really hard. The other issue I see is, okay, yep, we support this motion. We get the Bluestone curb policy. Chris and his team get it done, comes back to council, and the policy recommends, after community consultation and everything else, that, oh, we actually only replace Bluestone in the Churchill area, for example. And then we go through all of that, and we've actually pushed the project back. We've annoyed DIT, and then everything's just, you know, we lose everything. Or it could come back and say, no, we are going to do this because this is actually what our community wants. This is what we've said in our community plan. The truth is I don't know, and none of us know because the policy hasn't been written yet. So this is, again, where the tornness comes from. I, in principle, agree that we shouldn't be making decisions until we have a set policy and document in place across the council, so that, as our CEO's already alluded to with Porter Street, this is the template we go off of, and we're going to be fair and apply it to everything. I totally agree with that. But I also think that if we do that, we could be potentially shooting ourselves in the foot, because what the community expectations are and what we want might actually lead to a worse outcome for this right now. So I genuinely am sitting on the fence right now, and I don't know exactly what to do. The last thing I really wanted to talk about is, going back to money in our budget. We all know that we need to really be conscious of our finances right now, and if that cost blew out, you know, the other day we were presented with some very great news that we should be entering a surplus in the next financial year, which is a huge benefit to our town. I assume if we had to foot the bill for this, it means we're going back in the red. I think after the debate and after listening, and hopefully the community and my fellow elected members can understand where my thoughts are coming from at this point, I think I'm happy to support this motion for us to get a policy, hopefully relatively quickly, but understanding the risks that the reputation we have with external stakeholders, but also understanding that potentially the outcome that these, you know, passionate members of our community, and no disrespect to the community members that are here tonight have come and advocated for, may not necessarily be the broader consensus which ultimately will guide this policy, because it isn't just going to be about Bluestone on 12th Street, it's going to be about Bluestone throughout our town. And if that's the rule book we want to play by, that's only fair and logical to do that. So I think at this stage I'm happy to support this motion. However, I just do feel like we are stuck between a rock and a hard place at this point. and hope that my thoughts have been
Thank you.
echoed around the
Thank
chamber.
you. Thank you for those comments. What? What? Too long. Too long. Too long. Too long. Any other discussion? Councillor Lorna?
Thank you for that, Mayor. Look, I'm really on the same line as what Councillor White is there. I first, sort of had the thoughts, and a few people that I've spoken to around is, 500 grand for what? Why are we doing that? It's cut and shut halfway down the road. It's got bits and pieces here and there. There's more development going on through that street where stuff is going to change. The dip side of things, I don't really care if I upset them, but in all truth, though, I appreciate the work you've done, of getting them to the table or getting them to Gawler to actually start doing something that's quite easy to bypass. They go somewhere else where it's all nice and bright and shiny. So good job getting in there. I'm really listening to what Councillor White is saying about, the community and that. Like I said, we've got, 3, 5, 6, 7 people in this room that have come to talk about this. I've probably heard about 20 people that say, nah, no. So, we have got that real challenge here that, we put this out to community consultation, and it comes back to us and go, we don't think this is a good idea and we need it in this area. Whatever happens in Gawler, there's always going to be infrastructure and changes that we need to do, and we need to be aware of those changes, and we've got to adapt to them. It'd be lovely to save every inch of Gawler's heritage, but I don't believe that we actually can. So as long as we've got the policies in place to make an informed decision and really follow what the community's after in our town, then I feel at this point in time, I would have to support what Helen's got going on here and wait and see what it comes out to. Also, hopefully that it comes back quick. We'll put more pressure on you guys, but hey, if we can move, that'd be great.
Do you want to speak again? You asked a question? Yeah.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, I just asked a question before, but look, to speak to it, I too am torn. I wear a couple of different hats, as you all know. My practical brain is talking about the design that is a modern day system that can deal with modern day live loads, modern day stormwater management linked to modern day stormwater issues further down the track, modern day access for mobility vehicles and the like. As you also know, my office is very local to that area, as your house is as well. So I also consider myself very over the area, not as much as the passionate gentleman that I wish those that own heritage properties had the same thirst and appetite to actually invest that time and hold that importance into them as well. But I understand why we have the opportunity here to develop a modern day system that wasn't around.
Is that a question?
No, talking to the item. No,
talking to the item.
Talking to the item. Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Yeah. No, I asked the question before. Yeah, thank you. So that modern day system, the technology that we have now, we didn't have back in the day, and sometimes that means an improvement. Sometimes I would argue it actually means a lesser quality product and a bigger conversation to have. And then I put my other hat on, which is very passionate about heritage, and as you know, even putting my money where my mouth is in that space as well, because I think our identity is tied to our heritage essence here in the town of Gawler, the second town, the oldest regional town here in the state. I think if we capitalise on that identity, I think moving forward, along with the right economic growth, along with the right development, I think we can really position ourselves where no new suburb can, and I'm really excited about that. So, I'm very much as torn as my colleagues here, but I do need to understand the material pros and cons to make that informed decision, because until I have them, I'm a little bit handicapped in what the right way forward is. And that's not to say that I might begrudgingly come to a position where the new system for the 7,000 plus cars a day in partnership with DIT means the DIT standard curb and water table, that then means the access footpath availability for when we actually tick those boxes, because we acknowledge the thoroughfare that it is from public transport into the town. I'm not saying that that's off the table, but I do need to understand what opportunities are here and what design opportunities we have to provide a modern day connector road using old material, which if we can do economically, smartly and palatably, I'm open to the idea, but we're not there yet in that design. So unfortunately, we do need to defer, and that is nothing against Wendy and her team, because I think the opportunity in the design and the logic applied here, I think, is right, because we're lacking any other direction as well. So I also thank the CEO and Helen for bringing what other councils have and developing our own to try to, again, be proactive in the space rather than the reactive that we are having to be right now.
Thank you, Mayor Edmund. I'm just seeking to understand, supporting the creation of the Bluestone policy, is that an automatic deferral of the project, which will mean there's 100, which will mean that has an instant budget impact, and then, apologies, I forgot the second part of the question, but it might come to me. Thinking too deeply about it.
Through Madam Mayor, it will have a budget impact. Essentially what it will mean is if we defer, for example, $1.5 million worth of projects, we need to be careful we don't overload Wendy's team in terms of delivery. So in essence, we'll have to look at, say, our current draft proposals, and 1.5 million's got to push out the back end. Don't know what that project is yet, but we'll be looking to make sure we don't inadvertently give ourselves a program that we can't deliver. So, yeah, in essence, it will result in a reprioritisation of our projects.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you for the quality and depth of the debate. I think we can all agree that we are in a policy-free zone and we have lots of questions. We don't have accurate costings because we don't actually know what the options are. I support the staff. I think that, but I also realise that if we go through this process of policy, it will be clearer for us, for staff and for the community of what we're going to deal with this. I'm also very concerned about the long-term financial plan that we've committed to, but all of our asset plans are about prioritising and making choices, and sometimes they will be difficult choices. We've got a report coming up in a few minutes saying that we've got Clark Road, which is going to have additional things, and apparently there's going to be potentially some additional money coming in there that may or may not be able to be used. Well, this is, what our staff needs to do. We go for grant money for some projects, we might be able to move it across. I just think without this delay, and I don't think it needs to be 6 to 8 months, I think we can, with goodwill, we can get this moving very quickly. We will have a better situation where we understand fully what the costs and the consequences of not protecting our heritage will be. And believe me, I take on board that we've got 5 people here tonight, but as Councillor Koch said, every time we take our community plan out, our community tells us that this is their number one priority about retaining the heritage value of this town, what makes this town special and different to any other suburb area. So thank you again, and I hope you will support the motion, the alternate motion.
The debate is now closed. I'll put that motion. All those in favour? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 7. You're against. You're. No. All those against. All those against. Where's Jim? He's just left the room. He's just left the room. Okay. I'll call that approved. Yeah, deferred. Yeah, deferred. Yeah, division. Yeah, division. All those in favour, please stand. Councillor Lorna, Councillor Kosh, Councillor White, Councillor Davies, Councillor Hughes, Deputy Mayor Shanks, Councillor Hennessy. All those against? All those against? All those against? Councillor Solomon and Councillor Samble, and he's not there. He's not there. He's not there. Okay, thank you. Thank you. Yeah, declare the motion carried. Yeah, that's fine. Thank you. Call for a division. Deputy Mayor, do you want to put your motion up? Yes. He's not asleep. He's, yeah. Can you put your motion? Can you put motion?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
No worries. I'll let the minute taker catch up for us.
Attention, all members. Thank you. Yeah, you've got the floor.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mayor. I'm just trying to remember.
Just pull it up. Pull it up.
Yeah. I'm more than happy to have a break while we sort this out.
Have you got the mayor? You've got the mayor. Yeah, you've got procedural.
Is it possible to take a break now while governance gets that sorted and all of us can go to the toilet? Otherwise, I think we're going to start trickling out. Sorry,
Just
trickling out in that way, but
We'll take a break.
Thank you,
We'll
Mayor.
take a break. Yeah. So thank you.
this room, but also in Business Gawler to just, I guess, look at really like the idea of collaboratively working together to see what that looks like. The minor tweaks that I've made, they are merely just there to be a more targeted approach, in my humble opinion. You know, if we look at the Mayor, Deputy Mayor and Council Member Representative of the Business Gawler Board, the targeted approach there is purely just getting your leadership team, along with our colleague that is the most educated in this space, putting us together and supporting our high-level staff, being our CEO and David Barrett, with that Executive Manager of Community and Strategy title. And then really just trying to come together with the 4 reps from Business Gawler, because what I have seen in the past, on working groups in the past, you know, elected members, we get the chance to debate these decisions. We've done it tonight, we'll keep on doing it as long as we're elected. These working groups are a focus group to really focus in on an outcome that I'm really excited to tease out, but I want to tease it out. I don't want to necessarily be the one, council being the driving force. We need to be able to be listening to our business community through our Business Gawler group, and we need to understand what options we do have available as a collective moving forward.
Can I interrupt?
Yeah, sure.
Kevin Fisher needs to ask some questions. Yeah. Do you want to go up there? Yeah. So I didn't mean in any way.
Oh, no, that's fine. I'm more than happy if Kevin wants to speak prior or... either way.
Great.
Okay, thank you. I wasn't going to speak, but now that I've waited this long, I'm going to get my pound of flesh as well. I would call it a little bit over bureaucratic, but anyway, I understand the process that we need to go through here. Definitely a review of Business Gawler or Gawler Business Development Group is needed. If that takes us on a similar track, so be it, but I think it's also a stop for us and an ability for us to, rejig ourselves a little bit. And one of the good things that I can report to Council at the moment is I'm very excited with the board at the moment. I think we were underrepresented last year, and that led to, I think, a poor governance situation, I felt, and a little bit excited with the 5 new members that have come on board, and some of them look like very good contributors. And I think that with the meeting with the 4 members, and look, I'm not a big fan of big committees or working groups, but I think that we do need a few people sitting there, because the intention here, from what I can understand in conversations with Chris, is we will work through what we need to, and it'll be a, all things on the table type discussion to try and see what we can look and go forward with. Definitely the business community will have to be involved in some way, shape or form. Just looking around at other entities, Jetty Road, the parade, there are, some of those are Section 21s, is it 21 of Council? My memory's fading now, but something like that. They all have that representation, and a large portion of it's the business community. So I can see us rolling forward with something like that, but this opportunity for us to stop and have a look is there. And I endorse the 4 members. I think it just gave us a nice balance out of a board, because I was able to grab Gary Ironmonger, who's been for a long time member of the board. As the chair, I thought somebody thought it was important I was there, and the other 2 members are new to the board, and they'll add something to the discussion. So I think thanks for Nathan for changing that to 4 for us, and I endorse the motion. And if anyone's got any questions, feel free.
Well, any questions? Any questions from the floor? No? Great. Thank you. Will you speak to your motion?
Thank you, Mayor. I won't repeat the membership part of that, but I guess I just wanted to, touch on what I can see being the ideal outcome moving forward. At this point in time, we levy our businesses, as we know, that provides around a couple $100,000 a year to pay Business Gawler to do what they do. If we are talking about Main Street traders or those special projects, we do actually need to look at those models as a whole, because right now we're levying a lot more than just the Main Street traders. So we do need to start figuring out how that fair spread is. We also need to understand the sentiment of the building, I'm saying building now because that's the business that we're in. We also need to understand the business community sentiment as well on what they value and what they would expect for their bang for buck. You know, what's my return on investment? We pay the separate levy, what do we get in return? What I do like about the model though, with the Business Gawler opportunity, is really tapping into that business knowledge, that local business knowledge, that here is council. This is no disrespect to staff, it's not our remit. We're not Main Street traders, and trying to understand what Main Street traders go through every single day, I think can be a difficult challenge. And what those Main Street traders go through is a very different challenge to what we go through off the main street in the business we're in. So the ideal situation for me would be able to see the conduit maintained and even built on, and then the council having adequate resourcing to be able to help this town grow to where it needs to grow. Sort of lost my chain of thought a little bit there, but I hope I'm making sense. And this working group is merely just the first step in looking at what our modern day model may be, and if what we have now is the best, or is there a chance to improve, because there are some compliancy things that have come out we do need to neaten up as well.
Seconder? Seconder, you want to second the motion?
Yeah, I'd like to second the motion and say congratulations to Nathan and Kevin message there as well, because it's so important now. We've just got to keep moving forward in what we're doing, and I believe that this is certainly a way there. And I'm also going to put my hat in the ring because I don't know who the council member representative is, but second the motion at this point anyway.
He's Isaac Solomon. Isaac Solomon. Isaac Solomon. He's Councillor Solomon. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Any other discussion? Councillor Koch.
Yeah, thanks, Mayor. Look, I suppose I've got a question. I'm a bit confused here, because Business Gawler does one thing, it does promotion, and the report that we had, that said a different thing. So I'm just wondering how those two things go together, because it doesn't. Because when I look at this, it says it's trying to develop businesses, I suppose, business development in our town.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm not sure how that's going to work. We can have a nice little working group, but how are we going to, actually support the existing businesses? I mean, you can talk to main traders what they need, etc., etc. But then on the other hand, you're trying to develop other, this economic development. I suppose what we're talking about is bringing different enterprises and whatever into the community. I'm just not sure how it works. So maybe if someone could just explain that, I'd be happy.
Okay, thank you. There you go. There you go.
I'm going to start by saying I don't think I'm going to answer your specific question. I just want to put context on what we're trying to achieve tonight. So if you think back, we've got a situation where council levies a special rate on the traders, and that in the past has been given to Business Gawler to deliver a suite of initiatives contained in our plan. What we're trying to achieve here now is to, I guess, almost go back to first principles, but to say, okay, if we want to revisit that model, we need to have a conversation with Business Scholar and essentially say, okay, going forward, what are the strengths of Business Scholar and what would they like to focus on? And I don't know what that is yet. That's part of the conversation we'll have with Kevin and his team. And then there's a question to council, to say, council, okay, what do you want to be good at? Or what? And we've had a conversation in the past about employing perhaps an economic development officer. Not saying that's the solution, but perhaps that's a conversation, and that will happen as part of this iteration. And then the third piece of the puzzle is, okay, historically the funding model has been a special rate on the traders. I think that's on the table to go, is that still the model? What does it look like? Is there a split? Does the model change? Or is there a different thing altogether? Don't know. But that's what this group, I think, will get in a room and thrash out. So I can't answer the question about how it would achieve certain things, because I think that comes from the next step where we understand what each party is going to try and deliver. Because one of the key aspects of this, after we've worked out the model, is for council to agree on its future economic development strategy. And if we think about what we've currently got, and I think I've used this language before, it's trying to be everything to all people. I firmly believe we need to sharpen its focus and perhaps do a few things very well rather than try to solve everyone's challenges. But I'm preempting the outcome.
Thank you, Mayor Edmund. Of course, I'll speak in support of the motion, and I want to talk to a little bit of what Councillor Koch raised there, and what I think that the CEO put well, that when we, as Business Scholar, had met and discussed a lot of these things, it was, and when we saw that audit report as well, it wasn't exactly clear, one, what economic development actually meant, and two, where everyone fit into this picture. And I think hopefully what this will achieve is really starting to get to the crux of, it's not just about, and I think there is a perception out there that this is just about Business Scholar. This is not just about Business Scholar. It's about economic development in the town of Gawler. That's why the RDA is involved as well. And when we talk about economic development, there's elements in there, for example, tourism. Now, when we sit down as the Business Gawler board and talk about tourism, that's not something which falls within their remit. That's not something which they generally think about. If you look at things like skills and training, which obviously contribute to economic development, that's not the remit of council or of Business Gawler, but that's something which the federal government puts a high emphasis on, and which the RDA puts a high emphasis on as well. I think one of the issues of the past is that we've had perhaps some areas where we're doubling up, tripling up, as council at RDA or federal government as well, and Business Gawler, and some areas which are just completely left alone, and then we get this part where we point the finger and go, oh, it must be your fault. You were supposed to look after that one. Why didn't you? And they go, oh, no, but you were supposed to look after that one. And so to get past that situation, I think that this is a necessary step to actually sit down and take ownership to develop what that plan for economic development in the town actually looks like in a collaborative way. And then for each group, each party in that, to take ownership of their responsibilities. And that's, I think, the only way that we can actually work collaboratively in the future. I take the point that Kevin had raised earlier about some governance concerns about Business Gawler as well, not having as many board members. I think Business Gawler has come a really long way, and the recent strategic planning which has happened has been absolutely excellent. There was a point raised there when we were talking about the high level, what are we here to achieve? I think it was, I'll credit Raf Stamarchi with this one, but talking about how businesses provide prosperity to our town. And I think at the time I'd said, why would a public institution, why would a level of government care about businesses doing well. And one of the answers to that is the prosperity that people in our community gets from that, and the people in the community feel a benefit from having the ability to shop where they want, from having a vibrant atmosphere in our main street and in other places in the town, to be able to work locally and shop locally and support their local community. And so that's a very different interest to the business owners who might, who of course want other businesses to do well, but are focused on, making their business succeed. So we need to find where those things overlap, where we have a mutual interest, so that we can benefit the whole town. And I think council's the perfect conduit this committee is the perfect conduit to actually do that. But I think we need to be realistic and acknowledge everyone's role in this, what part, and as council also what part we have to play. So if there's any confusion out there, I'll just finish by saying if there's any confusion out there about this being some method to take away the levy from the hands of business owners through Business Gawler and redirect those funds into council, that's absolutely not what this is. This is getting all the groups together so all of us can take ownership of our responsibilities as part of economic development for the betterment of our town and for the long-term prosperity of Gawler.
Thanks, Mayor. I just have a question. When the report is handed down in May, is the idea that the group would be wound up then, their job is complete, or would they continue, and if so, what would they be working on?
In short, I think the answer is yes, because the purpose of this group is to talk through what I just mentioned earlier. I think there's a question about perhaps the development of the economic development strategy. So whether the group is resurrected or that has different components, I'm not sure. But the remit of this group is to achieve this outcome.
I'm at the Business Gawler's website and I'm looking at their business plan. Have we got a copy of the strategic plan that they've just worked through or not? So it's not on their website. Yep.
I think what Isaac was referring to is we held a recent planning day, and that was very successful in the sense that it gave us some high-level goals going forward. Chris attended, I think David attended and gave a briefing, and it's probably one of the better ones I've sat in on over 14 years where we actually came out with some outcomes. So in answer to your question, I think that Business Gawler are obviously funded by this levy. That gives us the ability to operate. I think the meeting of the minds, if you like, with this, we'll be able to clearly define our role, which should align with what essentially has happened, but we'll go into this with an open mind. I think we can still go forward and the town can thrive, and if I can use the word prosperity, I'll cheat and use that. And, the town, everyone, what was my favourite saying was rising tide floats all boats. So that's what we're aiming for.
Thank you. Thank you, Kevin Fisher.
Susie will let us know what the strings.
Oh, okay, okay. There you go. There you go. Okay, good.
All good?
Good.
So would you like me to just answer
Yeah.
Councillor Samble's question, if I could?
Answer.
Yeah, look, the mentality behind that, Brian, and was no disrespect to my colleagues, I think any member would be very beneficial on the working group. It was more around a targeted focus to ensure that the working group didn't have nearly half the chamber as elected members, because when it comes to decision making, we do that, and we're available to do that when it comes to the chamber. It was more to have that targeted approach with the mayor and the deputy mayor and the most experience that we have in the chamber right now that is currently on the board. And again, not to take away from anyone, it's just modern day changes that have happened in the board. We have our colleagues, so to rely on there. That's not to say that maybe there is an option to turn around and add a proxy if the chamber would like to offer that variation up to, say, 3 members, and should one not be able to do its comfort in the mentality.
Yeah. That's great. Thank you for those comments. Any other discussion? Deputy Mayor, you can wrap up the debate.
Oh, look, yeah, if no one didn't see the appetite, but look, just quickly, the themes tonight, I think again we're starting to have the right conversations, because again, if we don't position ourselves right in the current day, I can see us seriously getting ring-rooted around as development happens on our doorsteps, because Gawler 2.0 can be built up the hill, and realistically a CBD that'd be designed for cars over horse and cart. So if we don't position ourselves right and we don't work with our business knowledge we already have, and also promote bringing new business knowledge in, I don't see us surviving anymore. And we really miss our opportunity of that thrive piece, and here is that opportunity to really tap into it. And in the past, I think there has been a little bit of back and forth, us versus ratepayer, us versus business community, us versus bloody everyone, it feels like that. Yeah. But I think what we're changing that language, and we are having those better conversations, and this working group is merely part of that. I'm on other committees that are outside of local government, and forming a working group with a targeted approach is the standard operating procedure. This is just that. So looking forward to contributing and bringing back some potential ideas, and seeing where everyone lands with it.
Thank you. I will put that motion. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. 9.5, State Bicycle Fund Grant Offer, Clark Road Shared Use Path and Streetscape Upgrade. We've got $200,000. We've got $200,000. Do you want to move it? You want to move it, and you want to second it? Okay. Councillor Davies moved it, and Councillor Vallelonga seconded it. Yeah, okay. There you go.
Yeah, just to say, I think this is a valuable, going to be a valuable addition. The Tamblin train station area is one that I do hear complaints about in regards to entrances and access, and generally the pedestrian access to and from Tamblin is sort of it's the main route for a lot of students who attend schools like Trinity. And so if you don't provide the paths, people will creatively provide their own paths over the road, on the road, etc. So it's good to just set out some good pathways that will be valuable for the people there.
Thank you. Councillor Vallelonga, do you want to speak? No. Any other discussion? Councillor Samble?
Wow, $200,000 the governments are going to give us. What about that? But who's given the $305,515? Our ratepayers, right? Has anybody ever done a survey as to how many push-bike riders there is in Gawler? I've asked this question for many, many years. Because I've asked the question to a lot of people and say, do you ever see too many push-bikes riding on the push-bike track? We've got all these tracks that go around Gawler and everywhere and everything, the whole lot. Why is the Clark Road one need a... OK, one day it's only a bit of paint you can put on the ground, but why is it going to cost this council $305,000? So I'm really sorry, but we've got to stop somewhere and whoopee, they're going to give us 200 grand. Well, OK, we've got to pay double, a bit more than that. I definitely will not be supporting this motion.
Thank you. Any other discussion? What?
Through Madam Mayor, it might be good if I can just ask, I think it's Wendy, just to break down where the developer contribution kicks in here and how this interrelates with the development near it. I think it's important context.
Okay, through you, Chair. Thank you, Chris. And I think I'll start this by saying we'll actually come to Council with a broader update on Clark Road because it is actually quite an interesting project. And this grant has, it's absolutely 100% welcome. It has thrown a mild spanner in the works in terms of programming. So for those of you who will remember the 24-25 budget bids, we had I'm just going to use round figures, but the $500,000 in for the shared footpath from Tamberlin Station all the way basically to Anglevale Road. So, Councillor Samble, this is one of the, weakest connections we have in terms of connecting people who get off at Tamberlin Station, and obviously there's lots of, as you said, Councillor Davies, lots of school children who use that, into Evanston Gardens, which is obviously a quickly developing area, also has Carbethan Reserve as well, so these are, and Evanston Gardens Primary School, I won't forget that one. At present, there is no shared use footpath to connect this. So, again, just to clarify the scope, this isn't a bicycle lane within the road reserve. This is a 2.5 metre wide shared path on the footpath. It's on the southern side of Clark Road. So I think it actually is a really important piece of infrastructure. It certainly features quite predominantly in our walking and cycling strategy, so it's one that we've been wanting to do. So in the budget bid, we had the $500,000 for the shared footpath, just for asphalt and a few street trees, basically because, as has been predicated earlier, this does require the removal of the existing vegetation on Clark Road and a new streetscape. We had hoped when we did the budget bid last year that we were actually going in for a much larger grant, up to, I think, about $400,000, that was going to provide us to do a full streetscape upgrade. So that was going to go to a permeable paving footpath, which is a much nicer, urban design outcome, full landscape and full street tree replanting. So we weren't successful in that. We'd actually gone back to the drawing board for our asphalt shared path and quite a simple landscape design. But, we kept the iron in the fire and went for this bicycle grant. And so we've been successful, but it is requiring us to pivot on what our design will be. So we do want to use this money to get at least some of those enhanced design outcomes. So we're trying to work through getting the permeable paving in because that is a really good outcome, basically in terms of, just sustainable and good urban design outlook, and to do a bit more water sensitive urban design in the upgrade as well. When you heard me talking about 12th Street earlier, you heard about the order in which we do street programs, streetscape upgrades. So you do your curb first, then your roadway, and then your footpath, and then your landscaping. So our money here for council is only for the footpath and the streetscaping, and I know it seems like a lot of money, but that is the reality of how much it costs to do nearly a kilometre of footpath and streetscape these days. The developer of Oleana Waters, under an old deed, is required to do the renewal of Clark Road itself. Again, one of the primary roads of complaints.
When is that happening?
So, they were hoping to do it this financial year. However, there have been some complications in the development space which are outside the control of the developer themselves. So we're still working through when exactly they'll do that. So that does mean that I need them to do the road renewal first. It's actually a road reconstruction, and then we need to come in and do our footpath and streetscaping. So that does have some interrelation with this grant as well. So there is a little bit of timing and final scope for us to work through on this, thus I'll come back with a full report.
Okay.
I think because this grant itself has been delayed in terms of being executed, so you'll see in the report that originally it was supposed to be executed by the 31st of January, but actually they didn't even take it out of embargo to allow us to present it to you to get permission to execute it. There's already grounds there to say, well, you've actually delayed us from the outset, so we've got some negotiation there if we need to extend out. Is that giving you the background? Sorry, I feel like I've gone around in a long circle there. Okay.
You're going to bring a report back.
We're going to do a report back on what it's going to include.
Thank you. Thank you. Any other discussion? Councillor Solomon.
Apologise because my laptop's just run out of battery, so I need to plug that in, but I can't check all my facts. Understood that was a shared use path as part of it. Yeah. So just and just to touch on what Councillor Samble said there. Of course, this isn't just about bicycles. I think Councillor Davies mentioned pedestrians as well, who frequently use that station. And I notice in the report it mentions DDA compliance, and I just want to touch on that point, which I know I've touched on before. But something is not accessible if you put a ramp down into a pile of gravel. You need to make sure that there is connections for people to be able to access key infrastructure like the railway station there. And when you have a shared use path like this, and a decent quality path, that does mean that you are ensuring that that critical mode of transport is actually accessible to everyone in the community as well. So I just want to make sure that that point is picked up on in there, and make sure, and also support the motion, given that this is a good opportunity to enhance the infrastructure without having any real increase in cost to council to deliver on that.
So yes, just to clarify, this isn't just a cyclist thing. This is about reducing congestion of cars on our road. People need to feel safe that their kids are able to safely get to Evanston Gardens Primary School, the Carbeathan Reserve, the Evanston Gardens Library, all of that infrastructure. And then the people who are coming from Oleana Waters, for example, that do go down the other direction, down towards Trinity or other things like that. And these are often, primary school students and that sort of thing. So stuff like increasing lighting around the Tamburlaine station, better bus stops, curbs and a proper path instead of just wandering through the darkness in the field or which is what I see most commonly. And so, I think this is well worth it to me, so I hope that you can support this motion.
The debate is now closed. I'll put that motion. All those in favour? All those against? It is carried. 225 confidential orders review. Yeah, he is. He's just plugging in. Yeah. So 225 confidential orders review. Who wants to move this motion? Councillor Hennessy? Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Mayor. I'm happy to move this. Like any business, there are things that we need to review on a regular basis, and it's reassuring that we do this very thoroughly, once a year. There are matters that do need to remain in confidence, whether they be matters to do with personal things or commercial confidence, but I'm very happy that we look at this, and I'm happy with the recommendations.
Thank you. Can I have a seconder? You will second it, Councillor Samble? Okay. Thank you, Councillor Samble. Any other discussion? No. I'll put that motion. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Delegations updates. Who wants to move this motion? Councillor Hughes, thank you. Do you want to speak? No. You will second it. You will second it. Councillor Hennessy. Councillor Hennessy has seconded it. Okay. I will put this motion. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Tour Down Under 226 host council expression of interest. Thank you. That council notifies the South Australian Tourism Commission that it will not be submitting an expression of interest to be a host council in the 226 Tour Down Under. You want to move it? Thank you.
Yeah, just quickly, supporting the motion that we don't, but I do think that we do as a council need to actually work a lot more closer with the South Australian Tourism Commission. They actually have three aims this year. One's events, the second one's festivals, the third is food and wine, and across all those areas, sustainability in all those areas. So it may be something we work in with the economic development model, and even updating our own tourism works, but especially the travel that's within the state, travel from outside the state and overseas. You know, Gawler's got some amazing things in this building itself and throughout the town, and we really need to work with the Tourism Commission a lot stronger than we have in the past, and I think that's really important. I was thinking about putting in a number 3, but I think we already are tackling the economic development. So
you're seconding it. You're seconding it.
I'd like to endorse Councillor Hughes' remarks that we always look into it, but also to thank our CEO and especially David and the staff for the report that was given at the last meeting. I think for new elected members, it was quite an experience to know the costs of what it costs to put these sort of things on. But I think there's an area where we need to improve, is that thousands of people went up to the Barossa Valley, and the Barossa Valley have obviously got a little bit more money than us and that sort of stuff. And these people, most of them came through Gawler. We had nothing to stop them on the way through Gawler. I mean, a toll gate would be fantastic at the bottom of the street, $5 a car, but we need to get better at promoting our town when it's people have got to come through to go to somewhere else. Bim Lange, the mayor, fantastic promoter as well as his team up there and all. They said, you guys didn't do nothing down there. And we didn't, did we? What did we do? Did we have, people running up and down the street, or Martin, what's his name, Johnson, standing in the middle of the street with his jocks on singing guitar? Nothing to stop people
Mike
to
Johnson.
go. Eh?
Mike Johnson.
What's his name? Oh, Martin Johnson, that's too
Martin
enough.
Johnson,
But what I mean is, I agree with Councillor Hughes that we should be involved, but also rack your mind back to a fantastic Christmas procession that was sponsored by Villawood, I think it was, wasn't it? And so forth. Did anybody do a survey or walk up the street like I did and ask the shopkeepers, some of them, why weren't you open? It's a waste of time. And this is what we've got to look at, is if we're going to have promotions, whether it's the Business Development Board or whoever else is going to put them on, it's got to be when the people are around. And I think when it comes to the Tour Down, we've already experienced 1 start and 2 finishes, and the businesses said it wasn't worth anything. But I appreciate CEO Chris and David and all the report that's been given us, because it let us all know that these things don't just happen. Taking out trees, taking out roundabouts and all this sort of stuff, I remember when Brian Tom was here with us, and when he did his trips overseas, lucky bugger, plenty of money and that sort of stuff, and all the roundabouts overseas, guess what they are, where they have the tour, what do they call it, the Tour de France or whatever. There's no mounds, it's a painted line. And he tried really hard to get Gawler to put painted roundabouts in Gawler. Now there's somebody to put their teeth around, because guess what? Then the police can do their work when you jump the roundabout, but they still jump them now. I like the idea, as Chris did, as certainly Paul and David being avid push bike riders and that sort of thing, but we can't afford it. Thank you.
Any other discussion? Councillor Davies.
Yeah, look, I'm happy to support this. I think there is we do need to be active in tourism and working with the Tourism Commission and figure out what's best for our town. But I think it's best for us not to have a scattershot approach without a plan. I think if we want to host the Tour Down Under, I think we should do that when we're ready to host the Tour Down Under every year. Like when we have a dedicated space that doesn't require every year ripping out all the street trees and putting them back in and all this sort of thing. Because that's the thing, that we talk about the cost for one event, but if you don't address the core infrastructural problems, then that cost comes up every year. Every year we rip out all of our roundabouts and replace them again, and it becomes a bit of a ridiculous exercise, because why would you host one Tour Down Under, when if you want to host the Tour Down Under, you'd want to be a location that's known for the Tour Down Under, so you'd want to do something that you can continuously do. And I don't think we've got the infrastructure for that yet in a place that fulfills both the criteria of being central to our main street and also not prohibitively expensive. So I'll support this motion.
Thank you. Councillor Solomon.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll support this motion and just say that the direction that we're taking on this makes sense. The reason it makes sense is because we, in order to be, as a council, we have decided that we need to be fiscally responsible, and so when we do things, we need to be able to back that up with the strategy and with the evidence to be able to show the real benefit in the end. I think that with these kinds of costs, as Councillor Davies said, it would be ad hoc at best at the moment. we've shown that we're trying to be really fiscally responsible now and that we are trying to get value for money. And I think tourism is something which we do need to focus on. But at the current time, these are the kind of ad hoc things which add up, which cost ratepayers in the long run. And what I've heard is that ratepayers are absolutely sick of that. Now, there are criticisms out there that perhaps there are other things which are not value for money. Well, that's great, because we have turned a corner here. We've got a new CEO now, and we've said we're serious about fiscal responsibility. So if we want to find value for money, we're saying bring it on. We are about to do that. We are committed to doing that. So this makes sense as part of that. If we do not have a plan, it's time to put this aside for now, so that we can make sure that we are getting best value for money for ratepayers in the long run. We cannot continue to turn around and say to people, we can't provide basic infrastructure for you, but these kind of figures that we're seeing in here, 500K, that I could name a number of necessary projects that need to be done, you could spend it on that. Say, let's have a bicycle race down the street, and we don't know what the benefit's going to be. We can't organise anything. There's no strategy behind it. That is just madness. So I'm happy to support this motion, given the space we're at as a council at the moment. And I think there is more of this real value for money conversation to come, because that is what we have committed to do as this council in the last 2 years. And I am happy with the direction that we are heading in.
Councillor Hughes, are you happy for me to put the motion? Deputy Mayor, yeah.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, look, I'd love to be able to say that events like this in our town will be so great for our town. And to be honest, I'd love to be a part of a town that is having events like these. What I'm not going to be armed with, should we pull the trigger or try to pull the trigger, even if you get to the point of saying, yes, you've ticked all the boxes and we're going to allow you to have that finish. In 2026, I don't see us having the resources to be able to deliver on that. I also don't see us to have the resources to be able to answer the valid questions from the ratepayers that aren't passionate about cycling and say, hey, you invested this, what's our return on investment? And I don't mean opinion, I mean raw data that actually shows the money we invested on this event meant we then got X amount of money back in through our businesses. I'm not to say that there isn't some economic benefit or potential, but when I look at the Barossa model, the Barossa brand, the leverage that they've used globally and what they're selling on that global scale, I understand why they're attracted to these things. I understand why they invest in the resources. Yeah. I also understand how they were able to secure a gather round because of their experience in these sorts of spaces. But they didn't develop the infrastructure to then get the gather round. They used the gather round to be able to leverage state funding on a strategy that they started developing in 2016. We aren't in the place of our cycle that says Tour Down Under is the right way to go in 2026. Not to say that we aren't going to be a council that's ready for this event or another event, whatever it looks like into the future, if we keep thinking the way we're thinking and making sure, because when we come and we have to answer the question, rightfully so, from our ratepayers, hey, what's the return on investment there? Oh, we had a really good party and, there was people everywhere. Yes, but how many punters did we annoy along the way? I'm someone that works out in the Barossa, and the week of Tour Down Under drives us insane because our ability to conduct business in the Barossa, we are handicapped. We lose so much money because we can't do what we need to do in that week. And we actually forecast that because we've been caught out too many times. Now, this is one business's experiences, but there are really good stories and there are also frustrating stories, and that's going to happen with any council decision. But we need to be armed with the right data, the right data stream to be able to justify why we would do something. To be honest, I just don't think we're ready. That said, I'm really excited to be a part of a council that is going to strategise to be ready when these opportunities come about. So that I am really looking forward to. It's just we're not there yet. So as disappointing as it is, I think we are making the right decision for the 2026. However, we need to keep the conversation going because other opportunities come about and we need to keep the conversations mature and focused on return on investment for our majority ratepayers.
Councillor White.
Thanks, Mayor Redmond. I just briefly wanted to touch on something the Deputy Mayor said, and that's about asking why. So right now at this point, I agree. I think the Tour Down Under is a fantastic event. I think the start, the finishes are fantastic. But at this very point in time, we have to ask why. What is the benefit that would be to our town? There's no doubt about it. If we use the Barossa an example, that is, you know, a long-standing, fantastic setup that has occurred over many years that absolutely delivers huge benefit to the region, and good on them. But right now we're laying the groundwork for some really important things. In fact, I think groundwork's a really good way to sum up maybe the last 2 years of this council term. We've been laying groundwork on economic development, the long-term financial plan, our essential infrastructure. Really important stuff, but unfortunately it's not the shiny stuff. But it's so important we get that right before we do move on to the shiny stuff. And you all know how passionate I am about tourism. I think I share that with Councillor Samble. But I also understand that we can't do the good stuff for tourism until we get some of this other groundwork right. If we have the Tour Down Under come through here, that's great for our town, but the bigger picture is an international audience. What are we selling to them at this point? We don't know that maybe yet, but we are working in that economic development space, and part of that will be working out what is our product and what is our message. But that is the secondary stage, and we're still in the primary stage at the moment of getting that all right first. I do, though, in the same breath, really want to thank the staff because they're passionately working behind the scenes and in front of the scenes on getting all of this groundwork, which is strenuous work, but really important. And it's also good to know that we will let SATC know that we're very much still interested in the future. And as the Deputy Mayor said, you know, 2026, maybe not, but, you know, who knows, maybe 2029, 2030, whatever it is, or if there's another event that comes along, you know, we want to be ready for that. And it actually, this whole conversation, I think, also links into our earlier discussion about 12th Street, about asking why, and I guess that's why at least I was really asking and voted the way I did, is it's, you know, this is really interesting, the community seem engaged, we've got a decision to make, but why? What is the reason why? We want to spend $500,000 on the Tour Down Under, $500,000 on protecting our heritage, like, you know, absolutely, I'm all for that, but give me the reason why, that peak reason why, and then I'll be able to support you. So that groundwork we're doing is still working out the why, but we're getting there. We're making really good progress. So I hope that as elected members we can inform
Councillor Hughes, am I able to put the motion? Yeah, thank you. I'll put that motion. All those in favour of the motion, carried unanimously. Thank you.
Motion for an extension of time, please.
Yeah. Till 11 o'clock. Yeah, thank you. So, second, Councillor Hennessy has moved a motion to go to 11 o'clock and seconded. That's correct. Yeah, okay. So, yeah, I can't see it. 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 I can't see it.
That's the motion.
No, that's the motion. I can't see it. I can't see it.
Which bit are you trying to see?
I can't see this motion.
That's already finished.
Oh, okay. So, yeah. Okay, so we'll put that motion. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Extension of meeting time. What?
You had one against.
What? What?
Jim Villalonga voted against it.
What?
It's not unanimous.
It's not unanimous, no. Okay. Mid-year budget review. I can't see it. I can't see it. That the council adopts the mid-year budget review report, which you want to move it? You move it? Councillor Samble. Councillor Samble.
The content is fantastic.
Yeah. And do I have a seconder? Do I have a seconder, Councillor Davies? Thank you. So, do you want to speak to it? No.
Excellent report.
Okay, thank you. I'll put that motion. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Monthly finance report. Who wants to move this motion? Councillor Davies. Councillor Villalonga seconded it. Thank you. I'll put that motion. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Thank you. So, recommendations. Oh, information report. No. Information reports. Recommendations from committees. Adoption of committee recommendations. Audit and Risk Committee meeting held on 4th February 2025 as contained in Attachment 1. Gawler Heritage Collection Committee meeting held on 13th of February 2025 as contained in Attachment 2. Gawler Youth Advisory Committee meeting held on 3rd of February 2025 as contained in Attachment 3. So, who wants to move this motion? Yeah, you can. You can ask questions.
Let's just get a mover.
Yeah, you can. Well, you want to move it? You want to move it? Councillor Hughes has moved it. Do we have a seconder? Do we have a seconder? Councillor Davies, thank you. Councillor Davies. You wanted to ask some questions, Paul? Yeah.
Oh, no, this is the minutes. No,
Yeah, that's the minutes, yeah. So All those in favour, carried. What? Heritage. Yeah. Okay. All those in favour, carried unanimously. Thank you. External bodies reports. Reconciliation Action Plan Working Group, 23rd of January 2025. Football and Associated Sporting Clubs Future Infrastructure Needs Working Group, Attachment 2. So who wants to move this motion? Councillor Hennessy, thank you. You will second it. Councillor White. Yeah. Have you got a question? Have you got a question?
It's a question regarding the football and associated sporting clubs needs.
Yeah.
It's on page 105 or 107 of the attachments, and it talks about using the Rotary Club, the spaces, and it says looking to use extended space for Thursday nights and home games. Can I get a bit of clarity around this? I thought that was just going to be a spillover and there'd be 1 or 2 trials during the year. That reads to me that's going to happen more often, so I just want a bit of clarity around that.
Yeah, Deputy Mayor.
In particular, because we're actually giving that for free.
Yeah.
And I thought it was only 2 or 3.
Yeah. So you can answer that, Deputy Mayor.
Yeah, so, and apologies, probably should have picked this up a bit clearer in the minutes. So nothing has changed from the model that got up in the chamber of what they're trying. This is merely might have been able to be worded slightly differently in just summarising the talking points. The dot point in there wasn't about any new decisions. It was more a talking point because what we find very important in the working group is being able to, one, talk to council decisions, but then also initiatives that clubs are working on in dealing with working through their club culture and the like. And that was a good example, regardless of where you might sit on the actual outcome, that was a good example of the club thinking outside the square a little bit and seeing an opportunity working with council staff. And that was merely a dot point saying we talked about the model and the example being the Thursday, Tuesday. But again, nothing's changed from the decision of council because the working group can never make any decision that supersedes.
No.
You know, so again, this was merely a talking point, and we provide the minutes, even though we are the working group, purely just to just show what we're talking to. And if I may, Mayor, I just wouldn't mind taking the opportunity just to give a little bit of an update, I guess, of what we went through. I know that you've read the minutes, but I guess just to then provide my colleagues that aren't on there, again, that higher level update. We hadn't actually met for about 6 months. It was a really good first meeting back coming into the new year. There's been some split off meetings going on between staff, Elliot Goodger and the like, all those sorts of things. But actually to bring everyone back into the room, we welcomed GC's new president and president of the grounds, as sporting club president and then football club president. They were really good assets to have, and they were really interested in what the group's all about. And naturally, the opportunity to formally meet our new CEO as well. I know the group has really appreciated Wendy popping in when she has a moment too. And from those conversations or from those relationships, we're able to actually start seeing a couple of internal options that might be available to get them through for modern day compliancy. And again, it's that thinking outside the square sort of opportunities, while also assisting with potential SANFL grants and what that looks like. And then also sharing that back through with the group that might be a little bit more experienced in doing it, and again, that cross-pollination and helping each other out. Williston bought the Wellbeing, which I think you saw in the minutes there. which touches on a lot more than just footy, cricket, netball, which is a great initiative that Williston is using at the Elliot Goodger space, and that wellbeing program's actually being recognised on a lot larger scales and stages than I think first thought, and because of that they've secured $35,000 grant funding to hold programs that are very beneficial. One, the most that I thought I was one of the most excited about was actually setting up setting up interview processes and hiring canteen staff in and actually paying them a wage. I think it's about $10 an hour, but it's all like 14-year-old and the like. And it was a really successful program that they found, and they always had canteen operators too. So it wasn't always reliant on, you know, your netballers or your footballers or extended family that always couldn't be quite consistent. So they were actually able to develop a roster, and it became a mock business, so to speak, or an actual business that the other clubs were really interested in. And, you know, who knows, you might actually see a collaborative roster rotation that is actually then providing kids that are not only a part of the club, but outside the club as well, opportunities to learn skills that are already helping them get into the workforce. So yeah, anyway, so obviously a bit of a passion piece, but very good conversations going on, but actually, yeah, absolutely take your note, but I can guarantee that there is no function that working group could go against what council said. Yeah, absolutely, noted.
So we've got Councillor Hennessy and Councillor White seconding it. Put the motion. Thank you. I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Oh, no. He's not there. Isaac Solomon's not there. Yeah. So questions on notice. Neil, questions without notice? Questions without notice? Yes. Jim.
This is just a quick question. Since Audi now has started to do their renovation, the car parking has been rattled.
Yeah.
And I walk down the street quite often, and I speak to a lot of retailers, and they're sort of saying that not the health inspector, the parking inspector, could you tell them to slow down a bit while they're doing the building, because there's nowhere to park.
Oh, there's nowhere to park. Yeah, okay.
All right. You understand what I mean? I know there is.
But there's nowhere to park.
No.
There's nowhere to park. No. Yeah. Okay. Yes, question without notice.
Well, I suppose the first question for this brand new team that the Deputy Mayor's organised, and it all sounds fantastic, there's no doubt about it. Economic development is what we all want in the town. The big question, what are we going to do about the gather round? We all know it's going to happen, don't we? I've got a couple ideas. A rodeo on Nowick Park, Goose Island, no worries. A Harley display in Pioneer Park, and I guarantee you'll get 200 Harleys there. Country music playing from the rotunda. At the moment, there's cobwebs in the rotunda. No one's using it. And a big car show down at the Gawler Oval, right?
Yeah.
Maybe a swap meet at Essex Park. All this is happening on the Gutter Round Day, and a spunky banners across the street when you drive into Murray Street. Welcome to Gawler, best of down the country.
The Makers Market have put in an expression of interest.
Makers Market, sorry, I forgot. Makers Market, the best market going.
Yeah, that's great.
What are we going to do for the Gather Round? They're going to come through here.
Well,
and the government's just given. The taxi drivers have rang me, because I'm a taxi driver and a licensed taxi driver. These taxi drivers are thinking about pulling out, because the government has now given anybody that's got a vehicle urban licences to be able to transfer people there. Think about it, Ethan or Jimmy, if you were a taxi driver right now, and that's going to be a busy weekend, you're going to miss out on fares. There's a lot of things not right. How about we and this fantastic committee, let's do something. Gather round's coming.
David Barrett. Oh, you.
No, Madam Mayor, and I'll steal a bit of David's thunder, and
Yeah.
so I do want to credit David and his team because we've been working hard on putting together some options for Gawler to take part in the gather round. So we have been working on this problem or challenge.
We have.
The challenge we've had is that David and his team have put forward a number of options to AFL, and that at this point in time they're refusing to sanction them as to be branded and supported under the AFL Gather Round banner. Now, if we're going to do it, so my feedback to David and the team was, well, we're just going to do it. But yeah, no, that's right. So, but ideally, we want AFL to support what we're going to do because they will actively promote them as part of what's happening. What David and I just had a very quick powwow on is we will update council on the initiatives that we're looking to share with our community. One of them is using centrals and broadcasting one of the games. We can't, one of the games. But so we will send around a communique updating councillors on the options. David looks like I'm missing something, so fill us in, David.
What? Yeah. Oh, thank you, David.
So just to clarify, Chris, there's been a bit of communication breakdown in that space. We have got a sanctioned event now from the AFL.
We've got a sanctioned event.
So it's going to be called the Footy Frenzy or something like that. Out at Gawler Oval. That's sanctioned by AFL, but we're yet to get commitments from all of the stakeholders for the delivery of it. So it's a bit of chicken and egg. We had to lodge a submission in early January and we're working through processes. We're awaiting for Foxtel commercial licences so that we can broadcast, and we're awaiting for community activation and community event activity over the weekend. We are working hard through that and we will provide council members and the community with updates, but we do have a sanctioned event weekend, so we will receive that publicity through AFL. The other aspect which we're looking at, as shared with council members late last year and also in mid-Jan around pop-up RV parking, that was unsanctioned. So we're still working through that process, but yes, it is sanctioned, which is a great thing.
That's great. That's fantastic. That's great. Unsanctioned, yes.
The Gawler Makers Market is a gather round event.
It is.
Yeah,
it is.
we got,
it is.
yes, we put a submission in, we got approved. So we're actually going to be a gather round event.
That's great. So motions on notice, nil. Motions without notice. No. Council member attendances. I did the, what? What?
I'm just conscious of the time. It's
Yeah.
20 to 11, and I do have a conflict in the item, but it's a fairly important item in confidence that we need to deal with tonight. Otherwise, it's going to kick out all the terms in my contract.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm just conscious we need to get that through tonight.
Okay. So we won't do council member attendances and activities. We'll do confidential CEO performance measures, reason for confidentiality. Who wants to move this motion? You want to move this motion? Do you want to explain? Explain.
It's me now. Sorry, Councillor Hennessy. No, I'm happy to move that we move into confidence to discuss this item because the information we'll be dealing with would involve the unreasonable disclosure of information concerning the personal affairs of any person living or dead. More specifically, the matter relates to information regarding our CEO.
Yeah, that's right. Thank you. Officer's recommendation, CEO performance measures,